Order number 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the public health and welfare in light of the coronavirus. Is there a motion? Have a motion from Speaker Pro Tem Phillips. Is there a second? And a second. We have a second. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon. Commissioner Gammon.
Here.
Commissioner Piercy.
Yes.
Commissioner Rather.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan. Commissioner Cush.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yes.
Commissioner Blair.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon.
Yes.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner McAdoo. Commissioner Key.
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch.
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to welcome all of our guests and members here tonight for the October 15th, 2020 County Commission meeting. At this point in time, we are in order. If I could, I'd like to call on our chaplain, Commissioner Trey Gooch. If he would, please come forward and lead us in the prayer, followed by the pledge to the American flag and to the pledge to the Tennessee flag. Commissioner Gooch, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, Father, we love you and we praise your name, for we know that all good comes from you. Father, today we want to talk about two souls who were members of your earthly kingdom, who are now members of your heavenly kingdom. The city of Manchester, Tennessee is grieving the loss of their beloved mayor, Lonnie Norman, who succumbed to the COVID-19 virus. We would ask you, Father, to be with those city leaders as they make transitions. And would you be also with his family and his friends and the citizens of Manchester? Father, Rutherford County is mourning the loss of our health department director, Mrs. Dana Garrett. Father, Dana had, as you know, touched many hearts, many souls here in Rutherford County, but she was also well known and well loved throughout the health community of Tennessee. So we want you to send your spirit to comfort her family, her staff and employees, her friends, and the people of Rutherford County in a way that only you can do. We also know that what can comfort us is the knowledge that you had angels waiting for them to help them transition to the place that they will be for eternity. Father, as we move into our election year, many of us are reminded that our country seems to be divided in a way that we just don't think we've been divided before. It seems like there's little to no common ground. And we know throughout history, if a country is divided and speaking the way that we're speaking and treating each other, that we will decay within. So would you please, Father, grace us with your presence to somehow bring us together, even if it's just a little bit, so that we as Americans will continue to be a great and good country. Father, we yearn for the day where every knee will bow and every tongue confess that Jesus is our Lord. And until that day comes, for America and for us, may the love of God, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the fellowship of the Holy Ghost dwell in our hearts today and forevermore. It's through Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3 white stars on the field of blue, God keep them strong and ever true. It is with pride and love that we salute the flag of Tennessee.
You may be seated. Again, I'd like to welcome all of our guests and friends tonight, even our balcony tonight. So all those in the balcony, we welcome you as well. Thank you for attending. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Here.
Commissioner Piercy,
Here.
Commissioner Rather,
Here.
Commissioner P,
Here.
Commissioner Cook,
Here.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Present.
Commissioner Reed,
Here.
Commissioner Gurley,
Here.
Commissioner Blair,
Here.
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Stevens,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Gammon,
Here.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Commissioner Dodd,
Here.
Commissioner Phillips,
Present.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Key,
Here.
Commissioner Gooch,
Here.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yeah.
We have a quorum, 20 present.
We have a quorum and 20 present. We are now allowed to take care of our business. Next on the agenda is reading and approval of the minutes. Commissioner Phillips, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Catron. I reviewed the minutes to our August 13th meeting. I find them to be in order and move that we dispense with the reading and they be adopted as presented.
Have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Commissioner Rather and Commissioner Johnson. Any questions? Any additions or deletions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
All right, members, next on the agenda is item F, Medal of Honor responders for the Snail Shell Cave incident. Chief Larry Farley, if you would please come forward for presentations.
Thank you, Mayor.
Gentlemen, come on down here.
As in the fire service,
Half of you go around the other side.
law enforcement, and also EMS, we have what they call high-frequency, low-risk calls on a day-to-day basis. But it's every now and then you have those calls that are low-frequency, high-risk. This is one of those calls. And I try to be brief tonight, but I kind of want to give you an idea of what kind of went on, and I'll cover it in a narrative. On September 13th at approximately 12 noon, after a long morning of heavy rain and flooding, and also, if you remember, that was the day of the shooting on the interstate, so it was a very eventful day. RCFR was dispatched to rescue 2 people trapped in Snail Shell Cave. Captain Matthew Lupo and Jason Reynolds were, Captain Lupo was command, and Firefighter Reynolds was over the operations. Fire rescuers arrived on the scene, surveyed the situation. They realized there was a great deal more of information they needed to know in order to determine the best course of action. Once they walked the 800-foot long muddy trail, they arrived at the top of the 80-foot deep sinkhole with a small muddy path that led to the bottom where the mouth of the cave was located. They took one look over the edge and knew this was not going to be an everyday rescue call. Just walking to the cave involved imminent danger. The turbulent water was filling up the sinkhole, rushing from opening to opening, and the cave's interior was barely visible. After assessing the situation, Captain Lippo and Reynolds called for help. After setting up a command structure, Captain Lippo running the scene and Reynolds over the operations, the first team made up of Matthew Henry, Brad Matthews, went in to see if they could assess the conditions and made contact with the victims while Jerry Clanton carried all equipment down from the apparatus to the road. This type of operation takes immense teamwork and coordination. When the crew arrived, Noah Ayers, Laura Stover, Trent Mazzell, and Jonathan Stanford carried specialized equipment to the cave. Lieutenant Andy Hastings was over the safety of all members on the scene and took the spot at the top of the sinkhole to provide support from that vantage point. Firefighter Henry and Firefighter Matthews scooted along the small edge by the rapidly moving water in completely blacked out conditions. They went approximately 150 foot back in this cave. And I don't know if you've ever been in the cave, but it's total dark blackout. You can't see your hand in front of your face. They went in with flashlights. They walked into an opening and got a visual of the two victims who were still standing on a high dry point across an 8-foot gap with nothing but a small flashlight. The water sounded like a freight train. It was so loud they were unable to communicate with the victims on the other side of the cave. After watching the water continue to rise in the flooded cave that dropped down underwater shortly past the position, they decided they must take immediate action. Matt Henry decided to swim across to the victims to create a rope line from a high point to high point and pull them back across. With a safety line in place, Firefighter Henry jumped into the dark, rapid water but came up short, making it to the other side after losing his helmet and his flashlight in the fast water. Matthews anchored down and having to adjust the current and the rocks on the ledge, successfully swung Firefighter Henry back over to the edge. Once he was safe, they adjusted their plan. They attached a rope to a personal flotation device and tossed it across the gap, using hand signals because they couldn't talk, and demonstrating with a flashlight on the other firefighter, showing them how to put the flotation device on them, and they used hand signals to communicate that on how to don that. They attached a rope to the personal flotation device, tossed it across the gap using hand signals, and demonstrations showed the first victim how to put it on, and the second victim how to tighten it. Once the victims had their PFDs on, Firefighter Henry, Firefighter Matthews created an anchor point using Henry. They asked the one victim to jump in and swing across the stream where Matthews was waiting to grab him. This takes a lot of teamwork, a lot of rope operations where everything's tied down, everything's anchored, and different points. It's very complicated, and these guys train on the rope operations all the time. After resetting to avoid the rocks, Henry and Matthews were able to successfully get the victim across. At this time, Matt Stevens entered the cave with a safety line attached to him and walked him all the way back out of the cave. He assisted the first victim back out of the caves to safely before returning to the second victim. The rescuers used the same setup, but Stevens was unable to guide the rope over the rocks, and the victim was sent directly into Matthews' outstretched arms. Stevens and Henry and Matthews assisted the victim out of the cave, where the rest of the crew was waiting off to offer their assistance. During that time, the water rose about 2 feet, and there was not much of a window left before they would have to abandon the attempt to the water engulfing the entrance of the cave. Their efforts truly saved the lives of these two individuals that were trapped and allowed them to be able to thank the rescuers. As they are in there trying to get these two people out, the mouth of the cave is continuing to fill up with water, and eventually they're going to be underwater, and that's what they were racing against. And I thank y'all for the opportunity to be here tonight to recognize these guys, because this is one of those low-frequency, high-risk calls. This is a letter I want to read from one of the victims. It's from Mr. Tim Stanky. Dear Chief Farley, it's very seldom these days that I write letters with ink on paper. However, this is one that probably should be written with diamonds layered in gold. How does one begin to thank you and your amazing team for saving our lives following a very bold and courageous rescue operation that took place on Sunday, September 13th. That's at the Snail Shell Cave off Snail Shell Cave Road. You have a team that you can be tremendously proud of. And he named them: Brad Matthews, Matthew Henry, Jerry Clanton, Jason Reynolds, Matthew Lupo worked seamlessly together, and I know there were many others involved on that day. Thank you so much for responding to the call and for the amazing work that you lead. I feel deep gratitude towards you and the entire Rutherford County Fire Rescue crew, so please thank them for all of me. Thank all of them for me. I will be arranging a dinner for all the men and women who would be to honor them, and would be pleased if you would join us. And then he tells that he would be working through one of the firefighters. So this right here, and handwritten, you don't see many handwritten letters anymore. And so I felt like I want to make a big deal out of these, make what these guys did tonight. And I can promise you, if they had their druthers, none of them would be up here, because they feel like they're getting rewarded for doing what they're paid to do.
There you go.
I want to thank y'all for indulging us tonight. I want to make a big deal of this because we're very fortunate, as Commissioner Phillips remember when we started interviewing, he helped us interview the first 14 we hired. And we've come a long way. And I want to thank the commission for your continued support and belief in our people, and thank the mayor for and y'all for funding us and what you do, because we could not do what we do without your blessing, and I appreciate you very much. And if you would give these guys a great big hand. Thank you so much.
Members of our Fire and Rescue, we'd like to thank you for everything that you do for us, protecting our citizens on a day-to-day basis, 24/7. So again, we thank you for that. That was a nice presentation, Chief Farley. This takes us to item G. Still got a few minutes before our public hearing. I'd like to make an announcement about Miss Dana Garrett. It's with a heavy heart tonight that we announce the passing of Dana Garrett. Dana served as the director of Rutherford County Health Department. We are still in shock and disbelief at this immeasurable loss. Dana's passion was to serve this community, and she did it so well. She led us through this pandemic. From day one, she was there with us, working hard, trying to find PPE, trying to find gowns, doing everything that she possibly could, working overtime, working the stress that she just worked her body so hard to protect the citizens of this community. But she did it with such professionalism and grace. She will truly be missed. Our sincerest condolences go out to her husband, Stephen, and her extended family at the Rutherford County Health Department. We thank all of the staff at our Rutherford County Health Department for working with us on this. Lashon, I know you're here, and you were her assistant, and Dr. Dr. McDonald, I know you all were her right hands, and we certainly appreciate that. Stephen, we would also like to extend our gratitude to you for sharing Dana with us. She was truly an amazing blessing to Rutherford County community. You will all remain in our thoughts and prayers in the days and weeks and months ahead. I've been working today with the State Department, and her supervisor will be coming down. I talked to her late this afternoon. She'll be coming down 2 days a week to make sure, and they said, "There's anything that we can do for you all in Rutherford County?" And I said, let's just make sure that a department as large as what we have in the middle of this pandemic, that there's no bumps in the road, and it's a smooth transition in the days and weeks to come. And we have the assurance from the commissioner and the governor that will continue to happen. So we thank you all for doing that. Next, we have a resolution for recognition of Lashawn Dixon presented by Commissioner Cush. Commissioner Cush, you're recognized in the well.
Ms. Dixon, would you, yeah, please, and bring up anybody you'd like. Congratulations, by the way. How are you? I want to start out by saying that Lashawn Dixon is the Assistant County Director for the Rutherford County Health Department. And I don't want what has happened in the last few days overshadow the honor and the recognition that Lashawn deserves tonight. This has been a great year for her, which you're about to hear about. So this is her evening, This is her year. So let's build her up, okay, in spite of the loss we've had at the office. So whereas Lashawn Dixon is the Assistant County Director for the Rutherford County Health Department, whereas Mrs. Lashawn Dixon was awarded in August 2020 Middle Tennessee State University's Young Alumni Achievement Award. This award is given to a graduate aged 35 or younger, making a positive impact in the world. And whereas Ms. Dixon was awarded the Tennessee Public Health Association's Tennessee Public Health Worker of the Year, September 2020, and awarded for her outstanding service in the field. And there's more. Whereas also in September 2020, the Rutherford Athena Award was presented to Lashon for the 2020 Athena Young Professional Leadership Award. This award is presented to women under the age of 40 for her emerging leadership, accomplishments, and contributions to Rutherford County. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners at its regular scheduled meeting on the 15th day of October 2020, does hereby recognize and congratulate Lashawn Dixon on her many achievements and her dedicated service to the citizens of Rutherford County. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution and recognition be forwarded to Lashawn Dixon by the clerk of this legislative body. Resolved this 15th day of October in the year 2020. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Phillips and Commissioner Harris.
I just want to first say thank you to Mr. Chairman, Mayor Ketron, for all of your support. Also want to dedicate this in honor to the woman who has instilled in me these values of professionalism, values of giving, and values of hope, Dana Garrett. It has been a rough 24 hours for our staff at the Rutherford County Health Department, and I definitely could not do this without them. We have Dr. McDonald here today with us present, John Blair, who's our administrative support, who has been key in implementing and making sure that our staff at the health department is being able to move forward with this. Also Courtney Shires, and the list goes on of our many public health professionals that we have at the Rutherford County Health Department who are really strong during this time as we're going through a pandemic. And then also my best friend on the end there, Julia Steed, for her commitment of public health and actually being the first person to tell me about the job at the health department 12 years ago that started my journey into public health. So I cannot do this without this team right here, also my family and friends, my amazing husband, and my 5-year-old little girl who's taking photos right now. So I do truly thank them, and I thank the Lord above for allowing me to be here and be present and be able to give each and every day. One thing that I'll leave you with that I say quite often that I know my family and friends are getting tired of me saying is 86,400. There's 86,400 seconds that's found in each and every day. What are you doing with that? Live in the moment, be in the moment, because we never know when tomorrow will be our last day. Tomorrow's not promised, and yesterday is already gone. And Dana Garrett truly did show us that through everything that she did in public health. And I'm honored to receive this recognition from the mayor, from the commissioners, and then also from the city of Murfreesboro and the county of Rutherford County. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Dixon. Dr. McDonald, if you would stick around and just have a seat on the front row. We took up a little bit of time recognizing our heroes from the fire and rescue. So it's put us to the point, it is now time for our public hearing. We'll call you back up to give us a report on our COVID-19 status in Rutherford County at the request of Speaker Pro Tem Phillips. So we'll get to you in just a moment, but now it is time for us to move into our public hearing. Director DeMasi, you are recognized. We will move into this public hearing without objection.
Thank you, Mayor Ketron, and good evening, not morning, good evening, Mayor Ketron and members of the commission. We have 3 rezoning requests for your consideration tonight. The first is for property located along Burnt Knob Road, 6239 Burnt Knob Road. They're asking for a rezoning from residential medium density to office professional. This property may look a little familiar to you. There actually was a rezoning request for this property back in 2018 to zone the property to commercial services. It came as a result of a zoning enforcement action. He was running a business on the property, so he was trying to get the property zoned at that time in order to continue operating his business. That application ultimately was denied by the Board of Commissioners back in April of 2018. Since that time, the applicant has cleaned up the site, but he has relayed to the applicant has relayed to staff, that he was having a difficult time renting the existing house as a residential unit on the property and thought it would be better served for him and better marketed for him if he could zone it something different to allow for maybe an office use, maybe something like mini warehouses, something to that effect. Office professional would allow for the offices. It's a lighter zone than commercial services. Mini warehouses would be allowed by special exception approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The existing house still has access to Burnt Knob Road. Of course, if this application were to be approved and any development coming as a result of that would have to have an engineered site plan submitted and reviewed by the staff and the Planning Commission. Same goes with landscaping, and all performance standards would have to be met as well. The area surrounding this property hasn't changed much since 2018 when he made his last application. The range of uses in the office professional zone is less than what you would see in the commercial services zone, but staff still didn't think it would be an appropriate rezoning of the property. We did convey that sentiment to the applicant before he applied. He understood but went ahead and applied anyway. Most of the discussion at the Planning Commission focused on the surrounding uses and the zoning in the area and also the proximity of the property to I-840. There have been some industrial rezonings in the area, but they're closer to the Rogers Group Quarry, which is to the east of this property, and closer to I-840. After discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this application by a vote of 9-4 and 1 against. The applicant did request this to be brought to the full Board of Commissioners for their consideration. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. DeMasi? Any questions? Seeing none, I call Rutherford County Commission meeting into recess to hold this public hearing. Public hearing is now in session. Anyone desiring to speak for or against the issue, please come forward. State your name, your address, and if you are for or against the proposed request. Seeing no one come forward, I declare the public hearing closed. Rutherford County Board of Commissioners back into session. Is there a motion for acceptance? Commissioner Gooch.
My motion would be in coordination with the Planning Department and staff to move for denial.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner P. Any questions or discussion? Without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon, Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Mr. DeMasi, you recognized?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Our second rezoning request tonight is for property located along Old Lebanon Road, 9123, which is to the very northern part of Rutherford County. They're asking for rezoning from residential medium density to a planned unit development, PUD, for a residential subdivision. It's about 37 acres in size of the property. The applicant's proposing to zone this property, as I stated, PUD, in order to develop the Griffith Cove subdivision. Griffith Cove will contain 81 residential lots for a density of 2.21 units per acre. Minimum lot size is 7,800 square feet, with home sizes ranging anywhere from 1,800 to 2,700 square feet and also above. Minimum lot width would be 60 feet. These parameters are similar to what was approved in the Griffith Park development back in 2015, which is immediately to the south of this property. There is a chart in the pattern book, which you can find on your iPads, that gives you a significant amount of information regarding the specifics of this application. And as always, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have if you've been looking at that. All homes would be for purchase and would have minimum 3-bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and 2-car front entry garages. Decorative streetlights are proposed, as well as home elevations will be constructed of masonry materials. Additional information can be found in your pattern book, again, which I stated is on your iPads. Access to the property will be through the existing stub outs into the Griffith Park development. There will not be any new or direct access onto Old Lebanon Road. There have been turn lane improvements made as part of the Griffith Park subdivision at the intersections of Lebanon Pike and Cutoff Road, and also the new road that was built for Griffith Park, Malcolm Way. So as far as traffic improvements are concerned, that seems to be taken care of. We did talk to the applicant briefly about looking at some access between the two sides of the development. You'll see that there are 2 stub outs, but the 2 sides don't connect to each other due to a drainage way through the middle of the property. After discussion with staff, we're comfortable with the design that they did come up with. Even though there's no connection, we do think that this will work better than what we were thinking. Buffering and screening is not something that's typically required between single-family developments, but PUD applications like this do require open space, residential applications at least, and they are providing the minimum 10% open space that is required for PUD developments. Performance standards would not apply since this is a residential development. As stated, the parameters of this development are similar to what was approved in Griffith Park. Traffic improvements have been installed along Lebanon Pike and should be able to accommodate any additional traffic from this development, and we are comfortable with the overall design. There was very little discussion on this item. There was a question regarding the maintenance of an existing cemetery on the property. It was confirmed during the meeting that the development's HOA would be responsible for maintenance of that particular cemetery plot. The Planning Commission did recommend a unanimous approval of this application, and again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. DeMasi? Any questions? I call the Rutherford County Commission into recess to hold a public hearing on this request. The public hearing is now in session. Anyone desiring to speak for or against this issue, please come forward. State your name, your address, if you are for or against the proposed request. Seeing no one coming forward, I declare the public hearing closed. The Rutherford County Board of Commissioners back into session. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Piercy.
This lies in my district, and over the 6 years I've served on this commission, I've seen other designs for this property. The attempts were made to come across Old Lebanon Highway out to the new highway. Didn't work. This fits the area better than anything I've seen yet as far as keeping the traffic inside the existing subdivision. It's really just an extension of more of what's there now. And with that said, I move for its approval with staff comments.
I have a motion for approval and a second. Commissioner Harris. Any questions or discussion? Without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Motion passes. Our third and final rezoning request tonight. Mr. DeMasi, you recognized.
Yes, sir, thank you. Our final rezoning request tonight is for property located along Miller Road. This is south of Epps Mill Road off of the exit 89 interchange off of I-24. They're asking for rezoning from residential medium density to planned unit development for a mulch production and storage facility. Just for a little bit of background on this to fully understand what's going on with this is in order, so just bear with me for just a moment on this. This rezoning request does come before you as the result of a zoning enforcement action. The applicant owns the existing business, which is located directly to the west of this property on the corner of Miller Road and, well, really, it's Miller Road because it wraps around. So right there on the corner of Miller Road is the existing business. Benchmark Companies rezoned that property back in 2013. There was a second rezoning approved back in 2014 to correct some of the zoning lines consistent with what their site plan showed, so pretty much the same property. And the site plan for that was approved back in 2013. The applicant began using the subject property that we're talking about tonight for mulch storage at some point after moving his business to the adjacent property. Staff alerted the applicant he was in violation and instructed him to submit a rezoning application to bring it into compliance. His original request was for the EAC district, which stands for Employment and Activity Center, which is consistent with a lot of the zoning in that area. And that was considered by the Planning Commission back in March of 2018. The item was deferred for the applicant to pursue a plan development application. That PUD application was considered by the Planning Commission in October of 2019, where it was deferred in order to give staff more time to review the pattern book and for the applicant to make any necessary changes that were identified. A copy of the applicant's most recently revised pattern book is included on your iPads tonight as a separate attachment. The pattern book shows the property in question as well as the proposed use, which was mulch storage again, and proposed buffering. We did have several comments on the pattern book, which we forwarded to the applicant's design consultant. Most of those have been taken care of. Staff did send an updated list to the design team, and again, after seeing all that, they've made those changes that we've asked them to do. The existing business will have access to Miller Road to the north of the intersection with Sledge. The subject property will only be accessed through the existing business. At the time, staff was concerned we didn't want to see another access point onto Miller Road, so they are going to access this area through the existing business, which has direct access onto Miller on the north and south segment of that road. Since the property is only to be used for mulch production and storage, there's no additional parking required, and should this application be approved, the applicant has been made aware that they have to submit a site plan to show consistent and that they're going to be consistent with the county standards. Landscaping, they're proposing to add buffers along the east and north property lines. They can count some of the existing vegetation for that buffer. We have asked for additional information on the buffer, which they have provided. The landscape plan will also be required along with the site plan, and performance standards would have to be adhered to as well. Staff, quite frankly, had mixed feelings on this application. Basically, it goes back to since being zoned back in 2013 for his existing business, the performance on the property has not been what we were led to believe would be the case. There's been several deficient items on that site that have been addressed, and he is making progress on those, so improvements are being made. All that being said, we don't believe that this property will ever develop in a single-family manner. The area is identified as a major employment center in our comprehensive plan. Staff expects further development above and beyond what's already been approved out in that area. There was discussion on the applicant's past performance and the condition of the property. There were also questions regarding a new site plan for the property and accountability questions. This was all at the Planning Commission meeting last month. Those issues of past performance and credibility were also discussed with the county attorney. Following the discussion, the application was recommended for approval by a vote of 8 for and 2 against. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Are there any questions from the commissioners to Mr. DeMasi? Seeing none, I call the Rutherford County Commission meeting into recess to hold a public hearing on this request. The public hearing is now in session. Anyone desiring to speak for or against the issue, please come forward, state your name, your address, and if you're for or against the proposed request. Mr. Roundtree.
Yes, sir.
You're
if I could
recognized.
speak, Mayor and Commissioners, thank you so much for hearing our request. Clyde Roundtree, Huddleston Steel Engineering. I'm representing Mr. Scott Gravy, who's the owner of the Benchmark Mulch Company. And as Doug mentioned, this has kind of been a process to get this into compliance with what the county planning department's requiring. And as was mentioned, he originally had a desire to go through a bulk zoning with the EAC, and that did not give us enough assurities of how he would perform on this particular piece of property. So the logical process was to move into a planned development. After working with Mr. Gravy, trying to understand how this happened and then kind of how to alleviate some of the concerns that staff would have. In general, what happened, just as simple as possible, that the property that we are now trying to rezone is a close relationship with Mr. Gravy. So as his business grew, he basically creeped into the northern portion of this property, and just basically it was a migration of his business. And so he was called into violation because it was improperly zoned to be using the additional property, a leased piece of property, for this particular use. So with that in mind, Mr. Gravy has been proactive in trying to take away some of the concerns by buffering along Miller Road, making sure that there's no new structures that are being implied. And we went before Planning Commission several months ago and didn't really have enough definition to give confidence to the planning commissioners. So we went back to the drawing board to try to do as much as we could definitively to show how the mulch storage was going to happen on the site, also to articulate how vehicles would circulate within the site, making sure that his septic area was protected, and really trying to quantify where any kind of equipment on site would be stored in this new area. He has no anticipation of building anything now or in the future in terms of buildings, but because from an aerial photograph it looked like there's a little bit of a randomness to where he was storing his equipment, we basically designated very specific spots where equipment would be stored, and what we're proposing is really the furthest away from Miller Road to not create any kind of objectionable view from Miller. Doug has been very concerned about making sure that any mulch storage is as far away from Miller as possible, and talking to Mr. Gravy, really the mulch piles kind of hide the internal operations for that rear portion of property. So having them along Miller, in addition to having a buffer in distance, it's probably a little bit more of a softer view than actually seeing the equipment move within the site. So there is a diagram that shows in the pattern book how vehicles kind of circulate through the site. And as Doug mentioned, the primary access point that is currently used for this development will stay the same. There's no new access routes that are being requested. So how we have it kind of laid out is really the way it's most efficient for him to kind of work with this existing site. We have gone out and surveyed the northern property line. He is anticipating enhancing that buffer. On the western property line, or actually it is the northern property line. He wants to enhance that buffer, but he's been waiting for us to delineate the line so the same thing won't happen. That same property owner who he's leasing from owns the property to the north, and so he wants to make sure it doesn't become a creep situation on that side as well. So Mr. Gravy's been excellent to work with, trying to work through this process. He asked Doug and Mike to come to the site to kind of see some of their concerns. One of the aerial photographs was taken to where there's a lot of moisture in that photograph, and it came across as a very dark looking. It just looked like it was some kind of an oil spill, is what was referenced in the planning commission meeting. That's not the case at all. It was just the way the photograph worked in terms of the mulch being wet in that location. So he's done a lot to make the site more fluid and basically to right the wrong that happened with the encroachment upon this particular piece of property. And he's still more than willing, if staff wants to come out there to give more recommendations, he's more than willing to adapt to what the staff would like him to do. And as Doug mentioned, there's a few things on the initial site plan as far as landscaping that have to be addressed, and he'll be addressing those in the process of, once this rezoning is completed. He's been very anxious to get the berm established along Miller Road, so he could begin to create that buffer. Miller Road's going to be expanded for the new school, and so he is wanting to make sure, and Doug's been very concerned about making sure that it's not an unsightly view along Miller Road. So I believe Mr. Gravy's in line with trying to make this as nice as possible. He does have a booming business that has done well out in that location, and and it is consistent with kind of commercial activity in that location. As Doug said, it's not going to be any kind of residential application. And right adjacent to his property to the east is a new mini storage area, also owned by the fellow he's in relationship with. So that is the history of the project. We've been working with him to try to make sure the site plan got up to speed. And as Doug mentioned, working with the staff to try to make sure that we're meeting all the expectations as far as performance from Mr. Gravy. And in the planning commission meeting, he was available to speak to the planning commissioners, and he verbally committed to making sure that the planning staff is pleased with the progress he's made, but also with making sure that his performance is to their standards as far as hitting expectations. So I appreciate his effort and willingness to do this. I really appreciate Doug and Mike's assistance in trying to make sure the plan is in tight order. And as was mentioned, we have to do a site plan to get down to the exact, exact execution of the pattern book.
Thank you, Mr. Roundtree. Anyone else desiring to speak for or against this issue, please come forward. Seeing no one else come forward, I declare the public hearing closed. Rutherford County Board of Commissioners is back in session. Is there a motion?
Chairman,
Commissioner Reed.
since this district does join me, and I have served on the Planning Commission, in fact, in 2013 when this first come up, and I recognized it when we saw it again this time. And I have to say that this is a project that is a work in process. And as we saw the other night, as this would come before us, we see that the applicant is working hard to try to make this work. And I think this is what we saw there is giving him that opportunity to do so and where it's located. So I wish to make the motion that it be approved with staff comments.
Have a motion for approval with staff comments. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Phillips. Any other questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Demasi. Anything else? Commissioner Phillips, you recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Ketron. I guess this is a first for me, but as Chairman of the Planning Commission, I'd like to inform this commission that there were two proposed rezonings taken off of the Planning Commission's agenda that were scheduled for this week. One was called the Nashville Motorplex Complex, and it's in Commissioner Gooch's district. The other one is an industrial park that was proposed in Michael Rather's district. Both of these attracted tremendous attention from the community at large. So my point is it's this planning commissioner's, maybe I don't want to say that it'll for sure come back, but this planning commissioner's opinion that both of these will come back, and they will have tremendous input from the community. In essence, the public hearings will probably go on for a number of hours. It would be in probably our best interest as county commissioners to tune in to those hearings so that we'll know what's going on when both of those come before this commission at a future date. So keep your eyes and ears open as to when those public hearings may be rescheduled. And once again, I'd hate to waste all of your hours and hours and hours of time listening to this, but it would be a really good idea for you to be informed before that comes before this full commission. So if you would keep a watch out for what's coming.
Thank you, Commissioner, for those comments. Very well said. And I think if you maybe combine the two of these public hearings, it might be as big as the Bible Park at some point in time, for those who remember that. But it's important that we learn as much as we possibly can so we can make the best decisions for both projects within our community. Members, a moment ago, we had Mrs. Dixon up here, and we had a motion and a second on her resolution. She started speaking, and we failed to get a call the roll. Without objections, I'll rule that it's unanimous by the County Commission to support the resolution. So the record will reflect, Madam Clerk, that it's unanimous by this board that her resolution is accepted by all 21 commissioners without objection. Next, I want to call on Mrs. Dixon and Dr. McDonald to take the place of Dana Garrett. Dana was on the schedule tonight to give us an update of COVID-19 at the request of Speaker Pro Tem Phillips, just to let us know where we are, if we're increasing, if we got a handle on it, well, just where Rutherford County is. So you all both are recognized. Thank you, Dr. McDonald. Ms. Dixon, thank you for being here tonight.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor Ketron, and the commissioners of the committee, guests, and members, good evening. I'm Lashawn Dixon, and I serve as the Assistant County Director for the Rutherford County Health Department. And I will be giving the COVID-19 update with Dr. Lori McDonald, our medical director, who also serves as the county's medical examiner. She will also provide you with any answers to any questions that you may have that I may not be able to answer tonight. We will continue to offer COVID-19 testing at our Murfreesboro site located at 100 West Burton Street at no charge to anyone who wishes to be tested Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 12. As a reminder, tests are free and without any restrictions. Currently, we are testing around 150 to 175 people a day through our Murfreesboro site with the oropharyngeal swabs, and continue to work all public health investigation that goes along with the positive cases and their contacts 7 days a week. So here are a few key points to take away from tonight. COVID-19 cases are trending up in Rutherford County, similar to what is happening statewide in many jurisdictions across the country. Case rates 100,000 population are compared to what's happening in different places in different sizes. So over the last 7 days, our daily case rate for Rutherford County has been 25.5 cases per 100,000 residents per day. But when we're looking in comparison to our neighboring counties, Davidson County is 22.2, Williamson County is 23.7, Bedford County is 31.9, Cannon County is 28.2, and Wilson County is 28.8. As public health officials, public health is continuing to work and identify and isolate cases and quarantine those close contacts in order to reduce the spread. We also recommend and continue to recommend from the public health stance to encouraging social distancing, wearing masks, and hand washing for prevention. So what we refer this to is our 3 W's. Wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. I do want to take this time to thank our many community partners who we have here in the room with us today, and also to thank you to our Rutherford County residents for continuing to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19. So at this time, I'm going to ask that Dr. McDonald provide you all with any additional information and answer any questions that you may have.
Today, or yesterday, these are yesterday's statistics, and today I just kept changing them because they keep changing by the minute, literally. But right now in Rutherford County, we've had 105 deaths. That's a little inaccurate. It's more than that because there were several more today, which is about 4% of the deaths in the U.S. population. Just to put it in perspective, we've had positive cases in this county, 3,180. In the U.S., 8 million. And in the world, 38 million. In terms of deaths, 4% of the U.S. Deaths are ours. 21%, the U.S. has 21% of the worldwide deaths. So what I see, as Lashon just alluded to, is that our numbers, I think, have fluctuated if you look at the graph over time, but they seem to be starting to climb again. Hard to describe or explain why that is. It could be the schools are opening. The kids, as we all know, tend to be fairly asymptomatic, and it's difficult to keep masks on little kids, and they mingle with us. It's just difficult. It's a moving target, really. So what we do is just keep the closest eye we can on trends and age groups, trying to decide, like, what's the average age group now of a death from COVID. The average age, I think, in Tennessee of a COVID-positive patient is, case, I should say, is about 43 years of age. So it seems to be rising a little bit. The deaths are, if I look at all the death certificates of COVID-positive deaths as the cause of death, the average age is probably late 70s and 80s. They tend to be older, but we are seeing occasional younger deaths now, which we have to just keep an eye on. So it changes rapidly depending on the season. It changes rapidly depending on what the school system's doing, whether they're in, whether they're out. We always see a bump on long holiday weekends and people in nice weather. That's the bottom line with that. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions. The answer might be different in a week, but I can tell you what's going on now. Does anybody have any specific questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Rather.
Should be pretty simple to answer. And this has come from me, just out of curiosity. I've heard all kinds of, ever since it started, about the testing, from the swab that goes up in your brain through your nose, to a shorter swab, to something else, and it takes 14 days to get the results, or 7 days, now just in a matter of minutes. So when we're doing testing in Rutherford County, what kind of test is it, and how long does it take to get the results? How do you get the results?
The testing that we did for several months was the PCR test, which is the one that goes to the nose, to the back of the pharynx. That's considered the gold standard test for the diagnosis. We've, unfortunately, it's a bit labor intensive to actually get the results from the PCR. And we were sending to our state lab, and so was the rest of the world, it seemed. So that's when things started to slow down. We've gone to an oropharyngeal swab, and if you think of it visually, you do right tonsil, left tonsil, back of throat, and pull that swab out without touching teeth and tongues and stuff. They go down to now the Knoxville State Lab in Knoxville, and they can actually put a huge tray. You visualize this with all those probes that go in at once, and the results can come back in just a couple days. And having said that, the weekends are always where we get a little bit slowed up because not everybody's working all weekend long. But we are getting, I'd say, 2 to 4 days is when we're getting results back now from our facility. We have hired workers that are contact tracing every positive, which I actually volunteered one weekend to do that, and it was probably the hardest job I've ever done. Because one person can have 8 contacts, and you've got to speak to all of them and go through a lot of information. So we decided that we would be all worn out if we all tried to do it ourselves. So the federal government has allowed payment to hire people to specifically do that. There's lots of databases that have to be updated. We have administrative people that are doing that as well. So it's a factory over there at our health department. It really is. We still have testing, as Lashon said. The test numbers have gone down from the earlier in the year. However, we were testing from 8:30 to 3:30. Now we're testing 8:30 to noon. So I try to keep a pretty close track on it. We are averaging exactly what Lashon said, about 150 to 184. Sometimes it gets a little lower, but we do a lot of testing. We're responsible for a lot. We are very picky about the quality of the people testing. We train them. We make sure that we're keeping our eye on them. It's like if we step away, are they really doing what they're supposed to do? We always have someone out there. It's a big job, but we feel really strongly about the quality aspect of it.
I've got Chairman Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you have any advice for the citizens as specifically as it relates to Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then also the timing of flu shots?
That's a question. In terms of timing of the flu shot, I'm a very big proponent of the flu shots, and the experts would say this is about the time, because you want to be immune by Thanksgiving. Every year we see a bump in Thanksgiving of flu, because that's about 6 weeks, and we gather and there's a lot of travel. We often use the Australians who are now going into summer as we go into winter. How did they do? Because they're the ones that guide us. And they said that it has been a very light flu season because probably everyone was wearing masks and we weren't gathered together so closely. We're hoping that happens because we don't want that double whammy one bit. That just scares most of us. So yes, I'm a big proponent of the flu shot. It's a dead virus. You can't get the flu from it. And it's your best bet. With regard to, I think you had, did I hit all the other questions?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other question, really specifically, Halloween is coming up, and I have nieces and nephews, and I know everybody is concerned about what is the right thing to do regarding Halloween. But before we move on to that, I did want to follow up with one flu-related question, and that is the flu shot currently available at the health department? Yes. And are you charging for it? Usually it starts out at the beginning of the season on a sliding scale, and then as it progresses in the season, it becomes free. So where is it right now?
It's free.
Okay.
And it's available, and every patient that comes in is offered it, and we're getting a pretty good acceptance rate. Certainly the patients I see a lot of the diabetic patients, so that's really important for them. So I kind of make sure that we offer it and they're accepting.
Okay, good. And then, so then any advice you can give us on Halloween and Thanksgiving both, I know we would all welcome it.
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I'm glad they all wear masks of some description when they're trick-or-treating. And I think, I know some households I've heard are choosing not to give out treats. So I think we're just going to have to be reasonable, and it's going to be difficult because the kids will get jazzed up, and there'll be a lot of them out there. And I know some communities are doing different kind of activities to avoid that, but we've never done this before, so I'm not sure. We'll learn from this one what we shouldn't do for the next one.
And Commissioner Allen, the CDC has also put out recommendations as far as Halloween goes, and they have ranked it actually high, moderate, and low levels. And so there's another website that, of course, is kind of like our Bible in public health right now as we're going through this pandemic, is looking at the CDC recommendations. And I believe that they're going to be putting out recommendations for the holidays for Thanksgiving and Christmas as well, but I do know they have the Halloween recommendations out right now currently.
Thank you all both so much. I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner Harris, and Commissioner Key.
Heard the news about Miss Garrett, and I don't know how to say other than it shocked me. And the immediate concern that I had was for the citizens of the county, and where do we go from here, and how do we react? And after meeting you, Ms. Brown, and your staff, some of that anxiety has been relieved and my comfort level has gone up. So congratulations on your accomplishments so far, and I'm looking forward to working with you and your staff over the next few months. concern that neighbors of mine had dealt with the spike that's occurred this month. Is there any particular reaction that we should have to that spike, or is it something that we were expecting and need to let that thing play its way through? I'd like for you to comment on, in essence, the spike that we've had in October.
I think schools were delayed in opening, and then when the schools start opening, I think you're going to see spikes. Just look at the traffic increase that we see right now on the roads. When I drive in, I think this is not good for COVID, just because there's more of us out there. And the kids, they try, but they're kids, and they're gonna take off their masks, or they're not going to wear them. And they, unfortunately, fortunately for them, they're generally symptomatic, but unfortunately for us folks, they often bring it home to us. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on that and try to analyze it by day of the week, analyze it by locations to see what might help us. It's just a new territory all the way around.
Commissioner Harris.
First, I want to acknowledge my relationship with Lashon. She's an incredible woman. She is, I get a lot of stuff with opioids, but this lady is the backbone of it. She helped create the program, and I care so much about you. And I thank you, and you deserve it. And I thank you for your hard work. And I thank you for continuing your hard work going through what you're going through right now. Mine's on testing. I need to know what is the accuracy rate of rapid tests that a lot of urgent cares are given, and if it's a positive, are y'all being notified?
Well, yes, to answer the last question first, yes, every positive test comes to us. We have disease investigation specialists. We follow up on every single test. We follow up all their contacts. So that is routine. We've done that forever. If there's a measles case, we do it. If there's a norovirus, kind of the stomach flu in a restaurant setting, we do that. We're good at that. This is just a little bit bigger volume, so that's why we've had to go out and get help from that point of view. So that answers that part of the question. The other one was?
The accuracy of rapid tests.
There's a very good article that recently came out that went through all of the rapid tests accuracy. And if you look at, I'll just use these terms and explain them. The sensitivity of a test means if I know it's positive, for 100% positive that this person has COVID-19, and I give them another test, a rapid test, and it says negative, what is the sensitivity of those tests? And then the specificity is, if I know you do not have COVID and I do the rapid test, how good am I at saying this is a specific test for the negativity? And I've recently reviewed an article that had about 22 different rapid tests used across not just the US, but really the world. And they're pretty specific, most of them. That is, they're pretty good if you're negative, saying you're negative. But they aren't so good if they say you're positive, that you're truly positive. So they're not very sensitive. They missed a lot of positive cases, and they boiled it down to 2 or 3 tests that were probably worth actually using. Don't know the trade names of those, but the gold standard is still the PCR and the oropharyngeal, but they're not rapid. People want the rapid testing. There's an antigen test that's becoming available, and the antigen test is if I have the virus, it picks it up, and it's not available to us yet. The Department of Health there has been some discussion that we will be getting that, but that would be used primarily in really high-risk groups, such as nursing homes, schools perhaps, any place where we really, really want to make sure that people aren't coming in and out and they're positive and we're missing them. That's coming down the pike. We just have to be sure that we get highly sensitive. We don't want to miss the positives. We just don't.
Commissioner Key? Commissioner Key? Do you have anything? Not at this time. Any other questions?
Chairman, I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Gammon, and then I've got Mr. Serino, Commissioner Serino. Commissioner Gammon, you're recognized.
Once you have the COVID and it's over, how long should you wait before you get a flu shot?
How long after? Well, probably, it would be. Oh, sorry. I'm talking to the TV screen.
Okay.
So if you're COVID positive, I'm not sure anybody really knows what the exact answer to that is, but I think it would be prudent that we know that after COVID, after 14 days, you're pretty much out of the woods. And personally, if you were my patient, I'd probably say give it a couple weeks after that, because I don't think we have the literature to tell us for sure. But it's important to get one.
Thank you.
Commissioner Serino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like to let everyone know that Ms. Dixon and Ms. Garrett set up the Health and Wellness Council at Rutherford County. We meet every month. It's a wonderful job, and so thank you so much for your work well done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions for either one of the two? Any other questions? Ladies, thank you so much for everything that you do for us. We appreciate the update. Thank you. There are no public comments tonight, members. And before we get into item J, I'm going to ask for your assistance. We are going through a process now that we have Miss Ashley McDonald as our PIO, gave her the task to update our commissioner spotlights. That I think the last time we did commissioner spotlights was in the last administration, and the ones that have been repeating and playing on RCTV are about 3 or 4 years old. So we're going to ask you to call Ashley, set up a time. She'll get the crew down, and we'll do a spotlight for you. You can come in and do it, or we can come out and do it at your site. I'm going to show you the newest one tonight. Commissioner Reed has stepped up and already done his new commissioner spotlight, so we'll show you what he and Cannon have got in mind for you. And this will help you as people, your constituents are looking on RCTV. They'll see you and what you are and who you are, and update you. We have so many new people moving into your district, so this is our new task for us, but we're trying to help you connect and represent the people within your county commission district. So if IT will go ahead and play this.
I'm Pettis Reed. I'm from District 8, the county commissioner out here in the western part of Rutherford County. And out here is primarily a rural area. I have a farm out here that's been in the family quite a long time. One of the things I enjoy besides being a county commissioner is history. And I'm a member of the board of directors of the Rutherford County Historical Society. I serve as a trustee on the Sam Davis board. And so you can see that I'm pretty much involved in what we do as far as history. We are a family that is involved in our communities and what we try to do too. I have 5 grandchildren, a son and a daughter, that are part of the family here. I lost my wife in 2009. The house that I'm standing in front of right here, she designed. She was the one that wanted to create this post and beam home here. We wanted to bring it back somewhat as the replica of the old house that stood here that was built in 1842. We built it for the family, for the grandchildren to enjoy, and that's what we do. Whenever we have a Sunday dinner, we sit down here and enjoy this home. I'm Pettis Reed, and I'm proud to serve Rutherford County.
think Ashley and her crew did a very good job. Good job, Commissioner. So if you would hook up, put it on, give Ashley a date or two that she can get you all connected, and so we can start promoting you within your district back to your local districts.
Catherine, could you give us her number?
Ashley? She will send out an email to each one of you. Okay. Yeah, I don't think she want to do it over broadcasting it to everybody, so she'll email that to you so you can have it. All right, at this point in time, we'll move into item J on the agenda. I'd like to call on Commissioner Reed. If you'll come forward, it's time for our elections and confirmations. I was disappointed that Cannon wasn't in that film.
That was a one-taker, too, I tell you. And it's totally painless, and I urge you to get that out there because I think it's important that we tell people who we are and what we do. She did cut off the part where I said donations can be sent to, but she didn't allow that to be in there. Elections and confirmations, item 1. Ladies and gentlemen, listings of notaries may be found on your iPad. I ask that you look at those, and I hope you've had that opportunity prior to coming to this meeting. Mr. Chairman, I move to confirm the election of these individuals as Rutherford County notaries.
Have a motion on the notaries. Is there a second? Have a second from Commissioner Cook. Without objection. Any questions? Without objection, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 2, steering wishes to confirm Misty Foy to the Board of Zoning Appeals, BZA, 5-year term to expire October 2025. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chair, I would like to
Commissioner
nominate
Gooch.
for this position Ms. Amber Brown.
So we have a nomination from the floor for Ms. Amber Brown. Is there
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Blair. Are there other nominations? Commissioner Phillips.
Let me just say that there's absolutely, positively nothing wrong with this. Probably make an excellent addition to the BZA. I understand that Amber Brown was given some information that she did not need to attend that steering committee, which was in error, and that's the reason she wasn't there. After conferring with the staff of the planning department, Amber Brown has an impeccable record with the BZA. She's trained and still ready to go. Also talked with several members of the BZA board itself, and all of them are in 100% behind Amber Brown to be reappointed to this board. And I say that simply because the steering committee did not make the wrong decision, but the decision was made due to no fault of Miss Brown. And I would like very much for us to give her consideration once again. This is for a reappointment. She has all the qualifications and all of the training that's necessary to be a member of that board.
Appreciate those comments. Are there other comments, Commissioner Rather?
Chairman, I served on BZA for, I think, 8 years in the prior steering committees and this commission, not the same group, but the majority of the group. very honored to have been appointed at that position. When Ms. Brown first applied, I met with her. And after talking with her, I lobbied for her. Very, very smart, intelligent, and I know her mother well, and I know her DNA is to be a servant. And I'm going to stand behind the comments I made in the steering committee. However, and the comments were, the steering committee, when I first joined, or was first appointed to it, or elected, whatever, we were talking about the need for community members to step up and serve. And so I looked at Ms. Brown. She serves. She's on risk management. Ms. Foy is not serving anywhere in the county. She's on BZA for the city, from what I understand. I thought, well, give the girl a shot. And here's where I made a mistake. The day after that meeting, or 2 days after, I went back and looked and realized, now keep in mind I turned 55 yesterday, and that's part of the problem.
Happy belated.
I just thought Ms. Brown had served much longer. She has served a little over a year, okay? I was reminded of that. I knew it 2 days after that. I was reminded of that multiple times since then, between now and this afternoon. And as a former member, if I had served, if I had agreed to or applied to serve, and I was appointed to fulfill a term, I would really have liked for someone to given me a full term to serve. I put myself in her shoes, and I apologize to the steering committee. I'm kind of changing course. I apologize to Ms. Brown. I'm just old, so I'm kind of changing course here. Ms. Brown has served faithfully. Again, she has that servant heart. Her mom has served, continued to serve this community in ways that people don't even know. And so I'm kind of changing my course and want to encourage everybody else, if you are not already supporting Ms. Brown, please consider that and support Ms. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments? Commissioner Cush?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple underlying things that need to be discussed. Ms. Brown did not attend the steering committee meeting, nor did Ms. Foy. So they were debated on the floor without their own representation. And the vote came 3 for Ms. Foy and 2 for Ms. Brown, and then 1 for Leslie. As Commissioner Rather mentioned, Ms. Brown is on currently 2 committees. I think Leslie was on 2, maybe 3. Ms. Foy is on none. She has applied in times past to committees, still looking for an appointment. She's a 5th generation Rutherford County and a practicing attorney. She also applied for the Beer Board, which was the committee right after the BZA. When she was when she won by majority, she elected not to push the Beer Board nomination, and so she was not in that debate. So this is also then, I'd like for both of them to come up and state their case like they would have at steering, but if she does not then make the cut for BZA, I'm going to nominate her again from the floor then for Beer Board, and we'll mess that whole nomination process up. So I just want you to understand that. But she won majority because she's trying to engage in the county, and the other opponents are already on multiple committees. And let me remind you, and Robert Stevens reminded us at steering committee, you do not have to be present to win. It is not mandatory for you to be physically at steering committee during a nomination or an election process. And I had one more thought, and it just slipped my mind. I pass. But I think it would be worthwhile to hear both nominees, as they are both here, I believe.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yes, Commissioner Cush just made a statement that I have to kind of disagree with. He just said that would mess up the next vote in that nomination process. You know, the steering committee is 7 members, 1/4 or 1/3 of the total commission. I don't think it's ever messed up when the full commission has an opportunity to think about something. So if you would like to nominate the other lady for the beer board, I'll listen to it. I don't think it's ever a mess when you allow the full commission to debate a topic or a nomination. So I just make that statement.
Well, I agree, Commissioner. That's why we're here. That's what we do. Are there other comments about either candidate? Mr. Christensen, looks like that we have 2 motions for two people. It has been said that by Commissioner Cush that I'd like to have them to come forward before we go to a vote and let each one of them, we'll give each one of them, say, 3 minutes. Can we do that? Yeah. Without objection, we'll need to suspend the rules.
Shouldn't we take them separate? They're two different committees. Shouldn't we take it separate?
Well, we'll take the one at hand right now, which is the one, as far as the BZA is concerned, we'll take that. Without objection.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Have a motion to suspend the rules to allow the candidates to come before us. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from several members. Okay, we'll be in suspension. Attorney says we need a roll call on that. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Motion passes 20 yes.
Motion passes to suspend the rules. We'll go in alphabetical order. So that means Mrs. Brown, if you would please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And when we hit the buzzer, unlike the presidential debate, we're going to cut your mic off.
All right. Thank you so much for allowing me to stand before you. I certainly have been serving now for 1.5 years. I was coming behind a completion of a term, and I tell you, it has been a phenomenal experience serving this community. This board specifically means so much to me because planning's in my background. My career is a strategic planner for Nissan North America, so it really, really means so much to me to be able to look at processes, look at compliance, and when you think about this particular board, that's what's happening. It is really the meat of the future of this planning and the future of how we continue to grow our community. So I do want an opportunity to continue to serve my own term and be able to have your support in that as well. When you think about sacrifice, today is my son's birthday, and this community means so much to me. I'm here, and I'm present, and I believe in going through a process and following through that process under the right direction. So I thank you so much for your time, and I do ask for your vote of confidence, please.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Foy? Good evening. You're recognized.
Well, this is government, right? Two people wanting to serve their community, which is always a great thing. So thank you, all of you, for allowing me to come and speak to you tonight. Commissioner Cush already mentioned that I'm 5th generation Murfreesboro, Rutherford County. My children are 6th generation. My daughter goes to the same elementary school that her great-grandmother went to. My little ones that are 6 years old go to the same kindergarten class that's right next door to my kindergarten class. In between those years, from kindergarten to now, I've been a practicing attorney for 14 years. I was a municipal attorney at the city of Chattanooga, where I represent multiple boards and multiple commissions. I represented there the Historic Commission along with the Sign Appeals Board. I helped with the Beer Board as well. And at the city of Franklin, as a deputy city attorney there, I represented the Board of Zoning Appeals, multiple commissions and boards as well. So I have a lot of training from sitting through these meetings. I'm on the city Board of Zoning Appeals. I've been on that for a year. And I've been a civil litigator my whole career as an attorney. So, you know, I'm really well versed as far as listening to both sides of an issue. You know, the law and sometimes the ordinances and everything is not always as black and white as we want it to be. So it's all about listening to both sides and getting to a fair resolution. That's what I enjoy about my time on the board. They're quasi-judicial boards, as you know, and it's always good to serve your community. I've been trying to get on a Rutherford County board for a few years now, and there was an opening for multiple board positions, as you all know, and so I did apply for the Board of Zoning just because I had the Board of Zoning experience, but I also had the Beer Board experience. So in the event that Ms. Brown is awarded this position tonight, I would like to be considered for the Beer Board position as well. So thank you very much. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Foy. All right, it sounds like we have two very qualified candidates that are willing to serve our community. Can't ask for anything better than that. People willing to step up. So members, here's how we're going to handle this. We have two candidates. We will ask Madam Clerk, when she calls your name, you just cast your vote vocally, and we'll add it up at the end, and that'll be the successor. Okay, without objection. All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Ms. Brown.
Commissioner Piercy,
Brown.
Commissioner Rather,
Brown.
Commissioner P,
Brown.
Commissioner Cook,
Brown.
Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Foy.
Commissioner Reed,
Brown.
Commissioner Gurley,
Brown.
Commissioner Blair,
Brown.
Commissioner Allen,
Brown.
Commissioner Stevens,
Brown.
Commissioner Johnson,
Brown.
Commissioner Gammon,
Brown.
Commissioner Harris,
Brown.
Commissioner Dodd, Commissioner Phillips,
Brown.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Key,
Brown.
Commissioner Gooch,
Mrs. Brown.
Commissioner Sereno.
Brown.
19 Brown, 1 Foy.
Ms. Brown, congratulations. Commissioner P. I'm sorry. Commissioner Reed.
One of us was complimented in that one, wasn't he?
He's smiling.
Item 3, steering wishes to confirm Joanna Medlin and William Harper to the Beer Board and Dre Curtis as alternate. This will be a 3-year term to expire October 2023. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion and a second. Commissioner Cush.
Mr. Chair, I would like to add the additional nominee of Misty Foy to that list.
Have a motion to add Mrs. Foy to the list on the Beer Board. Is there a second? Have a second from Commissioner Rather. Commissioner Piercy. Excuse me. Other nominations? Commissioner Phillips.
I think we need some clarification as to which position Ms. Foy would be applying for, whether it's the alternate position or whether it's one of the other positions. I think we need to know a little bit more about who we're voting for, what position we're voting for.
I certainly appreciate the request for clarification. Commissioner Cush, your nomination is for her as a member of the beer board or as for the alternate?
My dad always used to say, go first class or don't go. So let's go for the full Monty there.
All right, Commissioner Cush, his motion is for the regular position on the beer board. Okay, does everybody understand his motion? So we have two, as announced previously, we have two open positions. Right now we have Joanna Medlin and William Harper that came from steering committee. So now we're adding the third, Mrs. Foy. So are there other nominations? Seeing none, then we will be voting for two members. Okay? I'm sorry? We had a second. Okay. Vote on the motion to add her to the list. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon.
Boyd.
Okay, excuse me just a second. Our attorney, Mr. Christensen, give us the legal position we are on this.
Did Ms. Foy submit an application for the beer board? Okay, I think I understand it that as long as she did that, she can be nominated from the floor, and it wouldn't require any sort of majority vote to add her. Now, if she hadn't submitted an application, I think that our local rules are that thereafter you would have to do a motion to get her as a nominee. But the fact that she did apply, I think that she can be nominated from the floor without an affirmative vote. Does that make, Mr. Piercy, I'm sorry, does that make sense?
I agree with that.
Not really, because it was a motion and a second, but it's all right with me if we don't.
Well, we needed a motion and a second.
For the nomination.
For the nomination to get her into the mix, because she had filled out the application, so that puts her in the mix without having a second confirmation vote. If that's your reading?
That's how I understand it.
Okay.
Let me ask this clarification question. How many nominees are we actually voting for? Total?
Voting for two. There are two open slots. We have three candidates.
Would it make sense for the person that got the least amount of votes of the three to fill the alternate spot?
Well, don't you already have somebody that's unopposed as the alternate in Mr. Curtis? I wasn't at the beer board meeting, so I'm not, or at steering, so I'm not sure. But if you've already got somebody that's...
So you're saying the alternate spot's already filled?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the nomination on the floor is Ms. Foy for a permanent beer board member, not as an alternate.
Okay.
Everybody understand where we are? We will be voting for two of the three that are nominated. Joanna Medlin, William Harper, and Mrs. Foy. Misty Foy.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Allen. I have a question.
Commissioner Allen, you recognize?
Thank you. I'm looking online on SharePoint, and Mr. Curtis's application not specifically applying for an alternate position. It says board desired is beer board. So in my mind, I like the idea of putting forth all four names and casting a vote for three. That way it's just done. And like Cush said, whoever gets the lowest number, that person falls to the alternate.
Whatever this commission decides, it should probably all agree that that's the way it's going to be done, right? So if that's a motion Ms. Allen, then it may need to be seconded. And then if there's a majority vote from the commission that that's how this is going to roll, then that's probably what should occur.
And with the understanding, Mr. Christensen, if we bring Mr. Curtis in and we vote on 2 of the 4 submitted, then what is the alternative? The next highest vote?
I think Ms. Allen proposed that out of the 4, the commissioners would vote for for 3 of them. And when you tallied up all of the votes of all of them, the top 2 get the permanent slots, and the one with the least amount of votes gets the alternate.
Well, the third place position gets the alternate position.
The least amount of votes, yes.
Of your top 3, number 3 gets the alternate position.
Does everybody understand?
Correct.
I would second that.
So you can pick from all 4 on the floor.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Allen. We're going to vote on 3 for the 2 positions, okay, with 4 candidates, okay? And we have a second from Commissioner Blair, right?
Will you repeat the names one more time, please, Madam Clerk?
Joanna Medlin, William Harper, Misty Foy, and Dre Curtis.
Mr. Chair. All right, members, I'm going to require a roll call vote on the process of how we're going to handle this before we take the vote on the candidates without objection. Madam, I understand what you're voting on, the process. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes.
I have 20 yes. Yes.
Because there's already
Put her on.
putting Foy as an alternate candidate to go up against Mr. Harper.
All right. Members, we have clerk's office has told us that we have the original motion that from Commissioner Cush and Commissioner Piercy had the second. That needs to be withdrawn for us to move forward on this next motion.
Mr. Chairman, it would give me great joy to withdraw that original motion.
I will withdraw my second.
We have a joyous withdrawal of that motion along with Commissioner Piercy. Now we're back to.
Can I say something real quick? Can I say one more thing just to add to that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Christensen.
Sorry, everybody. Just to make clear, though, Ms. Foy is still part of the nomination process. Okay? So all 4 candidates are still up for grabs here in the process.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yeah, I just want to confirm exactly what I'm voting on. As I understand the motion, we are voting for 3 out of 4 candidates, with the top 2 vote winners, getters, serving on the permanent positions, and the third highest vote getter serving as alternate.
You are correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you expose if any of these candidates serve on the beer board now? or have served.
Madam Clerk.
Serving as the clerk of the Beer Board, I can verify William Harper is currently a member of the Beer Board. Joanna Medlin has been an alternate, and her term is up, and the vacancy would be open.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Mr. Chair, does the clerk have a copy of the minutes? I'm interested in how steering voted on the beer board.
Mr. Spence is retrieving those.
The Vice Chair knows.
I've got the minutes right here. You want me to fill that in?
Commissioner Cush, if you have them.
But I want to remind you, though, Commissioner Gooch, that because Misty was appointed the committee prior, she basically withdrew her application. So there was no discussion on Misty for the beer board. But Commissioner Johnson moved, seconded by Commissioner Rather, to reappoint Joanna Medlin and William Harper to the beer board and appoint Dre Curtis as the alternate. Motion passed unanimously by roll call vote. Does that answer your question? Yes, sir.
Other questions before we vote? Everybody understand what we're voting on? All right. Commissioner McAdoo.
That we do have this set up in our rules that we only could do one alternate. Is it etched in stone?
I'd have to look at that, and we can take a recess. It's not in front of me, but I'd have to go look at that. I might defer to those that have been on the commission a very long time if we ever had two alternates or not. But I'm happy to take a recess if we need to look if there's the ability to do that. I don't know.
Well, if it's no objection, I would like to see a recess so you can tell me if I have one alternate or two alternates. If I can have two alternates, then I can satisfy everyone that put in for the beer board. And that's what I'm trying to do based on the information given here tonight.
Is that in form of a motion? 5-minute recess?
So move 5 minutes.
Is there a second? Got a second? Without objection, we'll stand in recess for 5 minutes. We'll call the commission back into order. Call on Mr. Christensen. He's researched our rules.
Thank you, Mayor. The rules for the beer board only allow for two alternates, and what's currently before the commission is one vacancy for that alternate. So you can only fill the one anyways right now.
Key word right now. Mr. McAdoo, that was your request. Did you hear his update?
Happy to do so. So the rules only allow for two alternate positions, and before this commission is just the one vacancy, so you can only fill the one. You're welcome.
So if the commission so desires at a later point in time, they'll bring it back through the steering committee and, change those. But for now, for this purpose, we will be voting for 3. Does everybody understand? Is everybody back in the room? Commissioner Harris. Look out in the hall, see if he's there. There he is. All right. Madam, we're getting ready to call for the vote. Mr. Harris. Madam Clerk. Not yet. Just want to make sure you're seated. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
We voted for the 3 now?
Yes.
Okay. Medlin, Harper, Bowie.
Commissioner Piercy,
Medlin, Harper, and Floyd.
Commissioner Rather,
Medlin, Harper, Curtis.
say Curtis. Commissioner P,
Boy, Medlin, Harper.
Commissioner Cook,
Medlin, Harper, Floyd.
Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Foy, Harper, Medlin.
Commissioner Reed,
Medlin, Harper, Curtis.
Commissioner Gurley,
Harper, Foy, and Curtis.
Commissioner Blair,
Medlin, Foy, Harper.
Commissioner Allen,
Medlin, Harper, Foy.
Commissioner Stevens,
Medlin, Harper, and Foy.
Commissioner Johnson,
Medlin, Harper, Curtis.
Commissioner Gammon,
Medlin, Harper, Curtis.
Commissioner Harris,
Medlin, Harper, Foy.
Commissioner Dodd,
Medlin, Harper, Foy.
Commissioner Phillips,
Medlin, Harper, Foy.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Medlin, Harper, Foy.
Commissioner Key,
Medlin, Harper, Foy.
Commissioner Gooch,
Mrs. Medlin, Mr. Harper, and Mr. Curtis.
Commissioner Sereno.
Medlin, Harper, Curtis.
So to fill the two vacancies on the beer board will be William Harper with 20, Joanna Medlin with 19. The alternate position will be Misty Foy with 14 votes. Curtis received 7 votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Reed. As he's making his way back up here, members, I'm going to, without objection, in looking at our agenda tonight, I'm going to start moving our consent agenda to right after the pledge and the prayer, so these folks don't have to sit here through our laborious actions, and they can be on consent and go home. So without objection, that's the way we'll restructure our agendas from this point forward. You're recognized, Mr. Reed.
Commissioners, let me also say, too, if you'll remember, for months, I used to stand up here and mention the fact that we have a vacancy in a number of these committees, and we would continually say we have a vacancy, we have a vacancy. This time, I think we've got one vacancy that I will announce tonight. So we've got 12 different spots we're dealing tonight, and that's why it's taking the time that we're having here. In steering, we've had a number of applications that will come up for these positions, which is a good thing, because we now have people that are applying for these. And I want to commend our chairman that was continually asking for this, and we now have qualifications for these committees. So this is possibly one of the reasons we're having the interest in what we're doing. Number 4, item 4, we'd like to confirm Barbara Sutton to the Audit Committee for the Rutherford County Citizen vacancy, a 2-year term to expire September 2022. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. Several members, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Johnson. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 5, we wish to confirm Clara Maxwell to the Audit Committee for the School Board member vacancy, 2-year term to expire September 2022. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion and second. Commissioner Cook. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 6, I'd like to announce Audit Committee vacancy for a representative for the Road Board, a 2-year term to expire September 2022. Item 7, we wish to confirm Justin Harney to the Codes Enforcement Adjustments and Appeals Board, a 3-year term to expire September 2023. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Johnson. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Dodd, Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 8, we wish to confirm Dr. Julia Sneed for the nurse vacancy for the Rutherford County Board of Health, term to expire June 2022. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion, second. Second, Commissioner Sereno. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 9, steering would like to confirm Troy Buckley for Judicial Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion, is there a second? Second, Commissioner Phillips. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 10, we'd like to confirm Alan McAdoo, Phil Dodd, Paul Johnson, Carol Cook, and the county mayor to the Delinquent Real Property Tax Committee. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion, is there a second? Commissioner Johnson, second. By several members. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 11, steering wishes to confirm the appointment of Dr. Rosemary Owens as CUD Commissioner, term to expire November 2024. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion. And a second. Commissioner McAdoo. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item 12, in the selection and subject to election by this commission of Zone 4 Interim and Highway Commissioner, a 2-year term until the next county election. Keith Elrod and Ryan Stigall received positive recommendations from the steering committee. Mr. Chairman, this will be moved to your election procedure.
Have a motion, is there a second? Commissioner P. We have one position, right? Members, we have one position. For this position, we have 2 nominees. Both have received positive recommendations from the steering committee. What's the will of the body? Ms. 21?
Roll call vote. Vote for one.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. The motion is to vote for one of the 2, Keith Elrod or Ryan Stigall. Any objections? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Not on the people, but to call the roll on whether to vote for one person. Let's go on the record with that.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
This is just to vote but for one person.
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Motion passes, so the action before us is to vote for one. Either Keith Elrod or Ryan Stigall. If you're ready to vote, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Seagull.
Commissioner Piercy,
Seagull.
Commissioner Rather,
Seagull.
Commissioner P,
Seagull.
Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Elrod.
Commissioner Reed,
Elrod.
Commissioner Gurley,
Seagull.
Commissioner Blair,
Seagull.
Commissioner Allen,
Seagull.
Commissioner Stevens,
Seagull.
Commissioner Johnson,
Seagull.
Commissioner Gammon,
Elrod.
Commissioner Harris,
Seagull.
Commissioner Dodd, Commissioner Phillips,
Seagull.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Key,
Seagull.
Commissioner Gooch,
Mr. Elrod.
Commissioner Sereno.
Seagull.
Mm. 15 for Mr. Stegall, 5 for Mr. Elrod.
15 to 5, it's Mr. Stegall has been approved by this commission. Members, now it's time that we move to item K on the agenda, resolution to approve the consent agenda. Chairman Pro Tem Phillips, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Ketron. I reviewed the items on the consent agenda, found them to be appropriate for the consent agenda, and move that the consent agenda be adopted as presented. Let me make one particular statement. There's a lot of money in this consent agenda, but most of them are grant money that we've got coming in and going out. So although it's a lot of money, it's an in and out type of thing.
Right. Thank you for that comment, because people do wonder. Commissioner P? Second. Any other objections, questions? Seeing none, we'll be voting on the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Consent agenda is passed. Now, next, members, is item N, reports by standing committees. Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee, Commissioner Piercy. P. I'm going with all the P's tonight, okay? Commissioner P. I do apologize. Commissioner Chairman P., you're recognized in the well.
Well, it's good to be mistaken for two handsome gentlemen, so. We've got 4 items to look at tonight. The first is actually gone through public safety and through budget, and it's to consider a new GIS position for the sheriff's office. And just to make a quick synopsis there, we found that there's some problems with our GIS maps, which is causing misdirections for our ambulance service. And in order to correct that, we're going to have somebody in there that can update these maps correctly and quickly, and also have the qualifications to do that, because they're privy to a lot of confidential information. The sheriff can probably answer more questions if that doesn't satisfy y'all with my short answers. But anyway, I'll go ahead with the resolution. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commission that the general fund be amended as follows: for the sheriff's office, unassigned fund balance $44,770. Data processing personnel increase of $31,050. A decrease in Social Security, $1,925. Pensions, $3,155. Employee insurance, $8,190. And employee Medicare for $450. This also covers a request from Fire Rescue where they sold a truck, one that we had surplus, to Cannon County, and they're actually asking for the money from that to be put into another account. They asked for increased revenues from sale of equipment of $40,000 and a increased expenditures of data processing service of $5,000 and an increased expenditure for data processing equipment of $35,000. Resolved this 15th day of October 2020. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Piercy on the second. Questions? Hearing none. Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Chairman, our next item is a taxable refunding bond issue. There's about 30 pages here I could read. I don't think any of y'all want to listen to me for 30 pages, but for a short synopsis, this is similar to refinancing your home. You know, as we know, we've got some historic low interest rates out there right now. This is a opportunity for us to save money on our debt issuance, and probably up to, what, $3,856,522 is what we're looking at on this. So I'm going to read the first of this resolution, and the rest of that will be for your reading pleasure at home or now if you'd like to. Resolved, a resolution authorizing the issuance in one or more series of general obligation refunding bonds of Rutherford County, Tennessee, for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of certain outstanding bonds of the county, making provisions for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal, of premium, if any, and interest on these bonds. Resolved this 15th day of October 2020. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Johnson on the second. Questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Okay. Item C is a discussion of lease with the Tennessee District Attorney General's Conference for office space in the 20 North building. The 20 North building, of course, being the old judicial building. When we discussed this at budget the other night, we decided we were needing a little bit more information and wanted to open the discussion to the floor here. But the bottom line is the district attorney has made his interest known in leasing the third floor of the old judicial building, or 20 North. And the mayor, with confrontation with Chairman McAdoo and his committee, have discussed this at length, and I'm going to ask him to err on this also. But basically, he was basically confirmed that he could offer this lease for 7,407 square feet at $18 a square foot, which would be $133,326 per year. That's around $11,110.50 a month. And I think the lease would run through August 31st, 2030. Like I said, this was the first that Budget had heard this. Come to find out later, that's not near as many times as Property Management had discussed this issue. But anyway, I'm going to call on Chairman McAdoo, if you don't mind, to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did discuss this in our meeting, and the reason that it looked like we jumped around on it because it wasn't a concrete decision made, because they were still meeting on the state level at a conference before they could accept the third floor of the old judicial building. Basically speaking, we had an auction, and I think our income was $810,000, and we were looking at using that money to remodel the third floor of the judicial building. And what came out of it is that we approved all this in our meeting, and this is based on monies that we made from the sale of the old building over there. And we were looking at it long term. And long term, this would be a good deal for the county. And basically speaking, what's going there will be the child support system under the district attorney's office would go on the third floor. And we thought it was a great idea to put that there, because you know that on the first floor, we're looking at the probation center. And we got to finish the third floor somewhere in the near future. So using the $810,000, it means that we don't have to go out and borrow money or tack on to our property taxes or anything like that. Long term, it's an excellent idea to do, and you can see the money that we're bringing in over this period will definitely give our $810,000 back plus some. Is there any questions?
Chairman P., if I might, I'll just add a few things to this, is that so General Jones was looking for space for his district attorney's office. That third floor, as previously stated, it's only 7,407. He actually is down here in the old post office building and needs little over 14,000 square feet. But when I told him we only had 7,407, he said, well, that would be perfect for our child support office that is located out on Heritage Park Drive over on the north side of town. As you see on your SharePoint, he delivered to us last week a lease agreement confirmed by the district attorney's conference. It's a 10-year lease at $18 a square foot, all inclusive for that 10-year period of time. There was questions the other night in budget, because it comes hand in hand. Do we give him the lease of what's going to cost to build out the third floor? We had a guesstimate of what it was going to cost from the contractor that's doing the first, second, fourth, and fifth floor currently in the renovation project. We could roll this in right now is the appropriate time to do that. It's a timing issue. They could go ahead and demo the third floor because we were already doing all 5-floor restrooms to make them all ADA accessible. So the contractor said that they could roll this in for around $600,000. I went back to him at the direction of Budget Committee last week and working with Mr. Mankin and the superintendent and the contractor, Cadell. They firmed up numbers, and you have that on your SharePoint tonight. They came back with $648,579.33 is what it would cost to finish out the third floor. you'll see an alternate on there on your SharePoint for $209,000. I'm not presenting that to you tonight. I'm requesting that go to back to property management for discussion on that, because the contractor said, when he stopped me out in the parking lot, he said, Mayor, you may want the commission to consider the windows on this building. The windows are shot. He said they're single pane. They didn't have double pane insulated windows back in the early 80s. And he said if you were to put double, triple thermopane windows in the replacement, and there's a lot of windows in that building, they should pay for itself within 3-4 years in energy savings. So we'll bring that back without objection to the Property Management Committee for that discussion at the next meeting. But what we're asking you to do here tonight is to look at, number one, approve the lease that's presented by the district attorney to lease this for a 10-year period at $18 a square foot. And then item D will get into the actual cost and where the money's going to come from, which Chairman will present that in just a moment. Discussion.
Mayor, one thing else, how long will it take with the $18 a square foot to actually pay off the $648,000
Well,
cost?
if you multiply the $7,407 times $18 a square foot, that should put you at a little over $133,000 a year. They'll be paying rent. Times it's a 10-year lease, but if you multiply that times 5, that puts you at $665,000, which is more than what they're saying that's going to cost to renovate the building. So in 5 years, you've amortized it out over a 10-year lease. So the additional 5 years is free.
Excuse me.
I think that's a good business deal. Commissioner Gurley.
And with the renovations, we're expecting a life expectancy of 20 to 30 years, somewhere along in there.
Well, you haven't worked for the state. I think that once the state gets in someplace, they don't move. It's a 10-year lease. That's what they're doing all across the state. Yes, sir.
But I'm talking about the life expectancy, building life expectancy. So if they continue on, then we should actually start making money off of this.
Well, I think after year 5, we'll be making money, and then for the life expectancy now, we're redoing the roof. We did have some roof damage on that, and we're negotiating with the roofing company when that storms came through. But we'll have. And that roof's only 3 years old, so we've asked our attorney to look at it and then negotiate the settlement on that, because it's only a 3-year roof and we've got a warranty on it. But everything else is new: wiring, plumbing, elevator shafts. So we should get another 50 years out of this building. Questions?
Comment.
Commissioner Piercy.
One of the reasons this is on here about the questioning of the hard count on the estimate for the 3rd floor. I really wanted to say a hard number before I said on budget and voted any money toward it. Now I have another question. The window replacement, is that for the entire building or just the 3rd floor?
Entire building.
Entire building.
Yes, sir.
The renovation of this building, was it only for the inside, no exterior renovation at all?
That is correct.
Why would you fix the inside and not the outside, especially a window you could see through?
Well, if you want that history, I'm going to give you a little history on this. This project was actually started before I came into office, and the company that was Gresham and Associates was the architect working with the last administration and mayor. They had quoted $4.2 million to renovate the old judicial building while they were the architect on the new judicial building, okay? And so when I came into office of September of 18, started looking at all the projects and started asking some questions. And within a short order, when I asked them to come in and meet with me, since the previous mayor had left, all of a sudden the price went to $7.8 million, and that's when I pumped the brakes and I said, well, wait a minute, what happened? And the only answer I got from the gentleman who's now retired, the architect, he said, well, prices went up. So, if you recall, it came before the PBA. We turned it over, property management turned it over to the PBA, and we said, here's the amount of money we have to spend. That's all the money that the county commission was willing to spend. Here's the money, do what you have to do. So what that money was allocated by this commission, Property Management Committee, Budget, and Full Commission, was the amount of money that was given to us, and that's what we got, was 4 floors instead of 5, and had no exterior. If I recall, members, am I correct for those on property management? I think that's how it all shook out. So that's where we are. PBA is in charge of this. We just need to decide tonight as a body, do we want the district attorney in? Do we feel it's a good business deal for Rutherford County? And how are we going to pay for it? And what I brought to the budget committee is, since we made $810,000 off of the building at auction next door, is to shift that money into this project instead of having to go back and put it out to bid, because this can be rolled into the current project, and it's a timing issue. If you went back out to bid, it doesn't make sense to have another contractor on top of a current contractor. That just doesn't work, in my opinion, especially when everything's connected between the second and the third floor, fourth floor, HVAC, lighting, wiring, elevators, everything else. It just makes sense to roll it all into one. Other questions? Commissioner Rather and then Commissioner Gammon.
So the $648,000 and change is strictly for the build out?
That is correct. That is correct.
Is there a cost or an estimated cost on replacing light bulbs and emptying garbage and sweeping the hallways and removing snow and all the maintenance that, according to this lease, the lessor is responsible for, which would be us? Is there an estimated annual cost of that? Because that, I mean, not real sure how much that's going to cost annually, because there's some things we're going, according to what I read, we're going to have to strip and wax floors every month or something. So we're responsible for all the maintenance, like changing light bulbs. I've never seen that in a lease before, and emptying waste baskets, but I just wonder if anybody's put a cost to that.
Well, this just came in yesterday, I believe, the lease. We'll continue to negotiate that, but yeah, we have, you know, if their quote to complete this is $648, we're estimating $665, so it's another $20,000 to take care of whatever those other additional needs are for the upkeep of what they're requiring. But we'll sit down and negotiate that with the state. We're looking for approval because they are in that demo mode right now with all their subcontractors. It's a timing issue. But I think there's enough cushion here to handle those other needs. I think we're going all LED, so I don't think that, you know, changing out light bulbs, it's a nit. Commissioner Gammon.
To me, it makes logical sense to go this direction. I mean, you're using money from the sale of the other building. You'd have to build this floor out anyway. But what this does, it also makes it more convenient for law enforcement, the public, to kind of do one-stop shopping between the judicial building and the new courthouse. The DA's office, back when the old judicial building was built, was in that building at the time until it got outgrown, and that's what pushed them down to the old post office. And so, I think it gives citizens better access, officers, but there's also a good working relationship with the DA's office, and you're getting something back at the same time. So you're getting money back. Now, whether they stay in it for 10 years and leave, it's still ours. So that at least gives some room for planning.
Other questions? Ms. Nolan?
Yeah, I was just going to go back to what Commissioner Rather was saying on number 15. That might be where you were at, talking about what the janitorial service is. But it says the janitorial service, if provided below, and see that one's not checked. So it looks to me like those things are not required of the county.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Allen. I have a question.
Commissioner Allen.
And also, I want to echo what Lisa said. I read that paragraph the same way. So if that's not correct, we probably do need clarification on that. But since that box is not checked, I read it to mean that it was not something that needed to be provided. My question is, on that last page where all the numbers are kind of laid out, at the very bottom of the page, it says pricing will vary depending on final drawings. Would it be prudent of us, though, to have some sort of a cap on that in terms of the variation? Because that line alone makes it feel like there's no certainty with these numbers.
They had, I believe, Ben Mankin met with two ladies from the Children's Services or Children's Support Office just today and yesterday, as far as diagramming out the office space needs analysis, and they feel fairly secure that they're going to hit these numbers based on what they had. You know, you have to come in and try to envision how you're going to take a courtroom and divide it up into office cubicles for their people to interview the mothers and the children when they come in for children's support under the protection of the district attorney's office. So they've worked since last week, and they feel fairly secure with this. Let me just stress the need for the urgency for the contractor to start moving on this so they can start demoing before the weather starts getting bad, carrying all the demolition material outside to the open top, as well as keeping on track. They are projected, and are moving fairly quickly. They're doing our archives as well. The same company is building the addition onto the archives. So they have two crews down here. They have already, on the 5th floor and 4th floor for IT, they've already got the crown molding, the base, the toe molding, all the sheetrock's done. The first layer of paint has been completed. Lighting was going in last week. Drop ceiling is in already. So they're moving quite rapidly, but the target is to be in that building and have the certificate of occupancy by May the 1st. So it's a timing issue of being able to. Now they've got to go back and start doing some demo on the 3rd floor and get it caught up. But you could question that last line. They always, contractors, architects always leave a little bit of contingency, but if you'll note that they have a contingency of $20,000 in there that should cover anything above or below that.
Yeah, I guess I would really like to have maybe Nick weigh in on this, or maybe Phil Dodd, some others that are more familiar with this type of, pricing structure. I just know if I was negotiating this personally, I wouldn't leave an open-ended number like that to just say pricing can vary. I would want some surety that it wasn't going to swing more than 10%, 15%, some variation in there so that we're protected before we go into it.
Commissioner Johnson.
What's the bottom figure, including the windows for the whole building?
That is on your SharePoint. It says alternates, $209,000. So combined, with the 648, as Commissioner Dodd said, and the 209, and there's $20,000 for contingency, it's 877, 579, 33. Commissioner Dodd.
Rhonda, my comfort level with this is that the PBA is looking after the job, and Ben Mank is looking after the job, and they're meeting regularly. So I felt like before we get too far down the road with this, I think we'll have some more clarity as each day goes by from the contractor and the PBA and Ben.
With no objection from anyone, I'd like to make a stab at a motion. Basically, the motion would be to agree to go ahead and do the remodeling and to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with the district attorney's office. And I'll read this, and if it's all right, and don't hear any rebuttal, and well, I do want rebuttal. I'd like to agree to authorize the mayor to have the third floor of 20 North remodeled for $648,579.33 with a contingency of $20,000. Also authorize the county mayor and other required county officials to sign a lease agreement with the Tennessee District Attorney General's Conference. And I'll make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman. So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Mr. P., would you be offended if I did my due diligence and just simply added to that motion that the lease would be subject to county attorney review?
Absolutely. Make that part of the motion, please.
Everybody hear that? Okay. Does everybody understand the motion? We have a second. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have another question.
Sure.
Okay, so if we are going to proceed with this, then I guess my other consideration is, under that same category 15, paragraph 15, it says that we are going to provide all utilities except telephone, air conditioning, et cetera, that kind of thing. So when I think about in terms of utility bills going forward, I'm just curious, would it be prudent then to go ahead and do the windows now, since we're going to be the ones paying for the electricity? Is that something we need to have a conversation about? Well, when does that decision need to be made?
I had suggested with Chairman McAdoo to bring the windows back as a separate line item, but that's up to this commission. If you want to include them now, that's up to the commission. Commissioner McAdoo?
It's up to the commission to do it tonight, but see, a lot of this, like he said, was a tight window time frame, and we didn't have all this information at our last committee meeting because the attorney generals were still meeting at a council meeting for the state. So a lot of this came in after our committee meeting. But what we were looking at, we made $810,000 on the sale of the building next to it. So we were looking at using that money to do the third floor regardless, to go ahead and use that money to get that building ready. So when this tight window presents itself, we'll be ready to go with it. It doesn't bother me. I don't think it will bother any of the committee members if you wanted to go ahead and set that money for tonight. But if we're looking at the windows, we may look at something else, and it may come up. So we don't know. So that's the reason it probably would be best to send the $209,000 back to the committee to look at the windows, and we may have to look at, I think I heard a portion of the roof, and it may be some other things we have to look at. And the committee would like to bring it back as a complete package than just to pull out the windows tonight.
Other questions? Commissioner Key.
Do we know if this number, 150,000, is taking into consideration the current state of construction, or is that number a different line item in the future? Because we know that it's easier to do construction while construction is going on. But is this 150, would it sit for a year and then we do the windows and it would be totally new construction? This amount would fulfill that?
For those, I think Commissioner Dodd would agree that since COVID occurred in March, we've seen construction prices almost double for wood and even concrete. This number for windows is 150. And he did have another quote that I would probably like to get that and take it to property management here in another week or so and present that. Ms. Nolan?
Yes, sir, because I'm looking at on this document, I'm not sure. You've got 160 under alternative 1 window replacement that's beside general trades, and you come down and you say there's another alternate of 150. So I don't know if it's 150 or 160, and then you come down to the first column, and alternates is 209. So I'm not sure.
Well, okay, so
what number goes with what?
The 209 includes the fire pump. The fire pump repair that is what is the pump in the building that supplies. If you add the alternative 259 to the 150, that gives you that 209.
But the one above it is 160. So I don't know if it's 160 or 150.
Yeah, he had two quotes, 160 and 150. But so he added the 150 and the 59, I believe, to come up with your 209. So those are the two different quotes that will go back to property management. The fire pump, they discovered, which is what you find when you're renovating a building. It's like renovating an old house. You tear something out and then you find that something's behind that wall that you didn't expect. Same thing on the fire pump. The fire pump, they discovered, which supplies the pump for the sprinkler system, because codes require that a building that high has to have a sprinkler system in it, and it hasn't been working since everybody moved out and the judges went into the new building. So that's the cost of that fire pump repair that will have to be done. Commissioner Dodd.
The motion on the floor is for the 648. Rhonda, I think I would be most comfortable if we stick with that and let property look at the other items that raised it up to 877, and we can do that in two weeks. So we'll meet at the last Thursday of the month. I think we can get ahead of any more progress in the construction, Rod, so they're not any farther along and have to perhaps damage sheetrock and paint that they're finishing on the 4th floor. So I think we can get in front of this pretty quickly and just look at the 648 tonight and catch it up in a couple of weeks.
To clarify, I think I said 668. I said 648 plus the 20 contingency up to. That way that'll cover the contingency.
Other questions? Yeah. You understand the motion before us? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yeah.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Serena?
Yes.
20 yes. Motion passes.
Okay, our last item tonight is item N1D, and this is actually a mechanism to pay for part of this cost. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general fund be amended as follows for increased revenues from the sale of properties of $805,909 and an increased expenditure of transfer to other funds of $805,909. And this is for transfer out, which actually moves it into the Capital Projects Fund. Resolved this 15th day of October 2020, Mr. Chairman, I so move. And if you want to know what happened to the other $3,900 to make that $810,000, we'll have to ask Lisa, because that's part of the cost involved.
Closing costs.
Closing costs. Can't get away from it. And I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Commissioner McAdoo on the second. Any further questions? Seeing none.
Question.
Okay.
The difference between the 805 and the 660, whatever Mr. P said there, the difference in that money, is it going to be ear tagged for a purpose, or is it just going to be put in that fund?
I will assign it to this project, to the old judicial project, the old judicial building.
The entire building?
To that project, yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Thank you, Chairman. Next, we have Health and Education Committee, no report. Property Management Committee, no report. Public Safety Committee, no report. Item number 5, Public Works and Planning Committee. Chairman Cush, you're recognized in the well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to read a resolution. This is basically giving authority, this body to give authority with the mayor to enter in agreement with Mayor McFarland on some work on Shores Road near 840. I'm sorry, Veterans Parkway. And this is in regards to some new alignment for Shores Road as it relates to the West Lawn development. They're going to move Shores Road about 1,000 feet, add some signalization, and there's annexation by the city. City's basically going to do all this work and hold the county harmless on that. But let me read this resolution. Whereas Rutherford County and the city of Murfreesboro desire to enter into a certain construction and maintenance agreement, a copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit 1 on your iPad under the Public Works folder, and which is incorporated herein if set forth at length herein verbatim regarding the Shores Road project as further described in the attachment agreement. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the appropriate officials for and on behalf of Rutherford County be and hereby are authorized to enter into and execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County the construction and maintenance agreement attached hereto as Exhibit 1, resolved this 15th day of October 2020. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion. I have a second from Commissioner Blair. Discussion. Commissioner Good. It's your district, I believe, Commissioner Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If everyone, I want to reference the Exhibit 1 here. Is everything in yellow currently in the city?
I believe everything in white is in the city. No, I'm going from memory.
Well, I think the white's the county. If you go to that exhibit,
Okay,
you'll notice.
let me find Exhibit 1. And to bring Commissioner or Superintendent Brooks up, do I need to ask for a suspension?
Yes, sir.
If I may, to have Superintendent Brooks come up and for backup.
Without objection, rules are suspended. Ask our road superintendent, please come forward.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Gooch, you are correct. The yellow is the city, the white is the county.
And in the part of where A is Shores Road, where it currently meets into Veterans, that is currently in the city?
That is correct. The city has annexed that portion already. They in turn want to move the intersection of a new Shores Road up to Veterans at point B. Okay? And there will be a signal. The Shores Road as we know it will no longer tie into Veterans and will turn into a cul-de-sac noted on that map as item F.
Okay, that's kind of the problem.
Okay.
If I may explain, so currently the residents, the county residents, obviously West Lawn is not totally up and going, but that's where they leave the neighborhood, so to speak. Okay, so if you look at where C is, they're going to bring the traffic from Shores Roads up, and the natural flow will go up to B to the signal. Now, if you cap off or cul-de-sac where A is, the community there, the neighbors in the county, you would see about maybe 6 or 7 plots would have to go left and turn right and go through a city neighborhood commercial to get out. My question is, and also on Veterans, which is not in the picture, there's a white historical home and they still farm. So they need access to the back of their property for tractors and agricultural equipment, which would make them go all the way to B point, turn left all the way down, and so going through neighborhoods and commercial district. My question is, why do we have to cul-de-sac it?
I think that all of this, my understanding is that all of this was designed and engineered with the help and oversight of the city of Murfreesboro. So with all of their traffic engineers, and Mr. Huddleston came to the road board a couple of months ago and explained in great detail what the entire 2040 plan is for the city. And it was a larger map than this, and it showed some additional new signalization that doesn't exist right now.
That's at B, correct?
Well, not only B, but at West Lawn Boulevard, as well as the entrance, on-ramp and off-ramp of 840 at Veterans Parkway. And then another one, I believe, up near what is Burnt Knob. I'm going by memory. But so they designed this thing, and I think the reason that they feel like they need to terminate the current Shores Road connection is just to add functionality to what will be the new signalized intersection. Long range, their intent is to do the same thing on Blackman Road, which is near the letter A signifier there on your map. They intend to cul-de-sac that back up to about the top of the map that I'm looking at right here, and then turn Blackman Road to the south and come out at the same signalized intersection at letter B. So, you know, I have confidence that a lot of you know, thought and study went into this, and there's some really smart guys over there that are doing this engineering, and I trust that that they are doing that with the best use and best safety intent that for everyone. I don't disagree that it will be inconvenient for the people that live in the corner. I guess it would be the southwest corner, southeast corner here that you're speaking of, that currently use that Shores Road that exists now where the cul-de-sacs being considered are being placed, proposed to be placed, to go into their back gate of that field that is behind their house. So it will be more of an inconvenience for them to have to travel, like you say, up to B to the new signalized intersection, turn left, down to D, turn left, to get to the back of their field right
Well,
there.
it's not just that one person. It's about, like I say, 6 or 7 properties there. But right now, currently, the whole population goes up to point A and makes a right or left-hand turn. I think, and I appreciate Huddleston still. Yeah, you're correct. Smart people, they studied and so forth and so on. But it looks to me that coming up Shores Road, that the natural flow of traffic, other than those 6 or 7 property owners, would go up to B regardless. So as far as an idea of not cul-de-sacing it maybe right now and maybe having a right-hand turn only or some for safety reasons, or just maybe a right-hand turn, obviously there'll be a traffic light at B to satisfy them for right now. And if later when we redo Blackman, we can look at it again. It's just, I guess it's just another example, city developers coming up, building next to the county and pooping on the county residents. And
Well,
Go ahead.
If I might add, this discussion is really about the plan itself instead of about the maintenance agreement. And the maintenance agreement is why I'm here tonight. We're trying to get the city, we have executed, well, we haven't executed, but we have finalized an agreement for the maintenance of Shores Road between letter D and the proposed cul-de-sac moving forward forever. The city will be completely responsible for maintaining that section of road. And that's what we're here tonight. That's what I'm here tonight to try to do, is get the approval from full commission, or from the commission for the mayor to sign the maintenance agreement. My understanding is that maintenance agreement has already been approved and signed at the city council 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, our last meeting.
Was it last Thursday?
I think
or
it was last Thursday.
Anyway, so, we kind of got two discussions going on, one about the plan and one about the maintenance agreement, so.
okay, so my question then on the maintenance agreement, they can't move forward. I'm assuming they need our permission to hook on to Shores Road at intersect where the B road is and the D. Is that part of the maintenance agreement? In other words, they're building a road that's coming off of Shores that's in the county. Actually, 2 roads if you count section D. Is that part of the maintenance agreement that they need permission for us to do that road?
The road is already built between C and B, and it's already well underway at letter D. The only thing that hasn't happened is the tie-ins to the existing road, and the reason those haven't happened is because the maintenance agreement's not in place. So do they need the permission of the?
Maybe they already have the permission if they've already built the road.
Built the road, they just haven't made they haven't made the connections to the existing road.
Because it's still a county road.
Because yes. So we're trying to get the maintenance agreement in place before that work happens, so that anything that might happen during the construction of that tie-in, the liability would be
on the city
and the developer.
Well, and again, I don't want to prolong this meeting, but I'm just trying to stand up for my constituents right now.
Understand.
So what can is there anything we can do that negotiate with the city or go back and see, do we have to do the cul-de-sac at this time?
I certainly think that's a conversation that can happen. However, that is part of the maintenance agreement that we have in front of you.
That's what I'm saying. As I'm looking at it, I'm against this maintenance agreement for the simple fact that the county residents, their desires and wishes are not even being considered. And if we deny the maintenance agreement, then that would give us some leverage to open up another conversation and include the residents there on why they want that road open.
I guess the flip side, if you have a cul-de-sac there, those 6 or 7 plus or minus neighbors now basically almost have a private road with no outside traffic other than those neighbors there.
Okay, on the other flip side of that, the natural flow of traffic coming up would naturally go through the New Shores Road up to the intersection, because that's how they're going to get out safely and so forth and so on. So the main people that would just use the old road there would be these residents here that would primarily be turning right.
On to veterans. Yeah, but
the cul-de-sac is really upsetting people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would just like to bring them into the conversation. And so what can we do to get them into the conversation? And what I'm looking at right now is not approve this agreement right now, and let's get these people at the table.
Commissioner Gurley.
Oh, that those.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yeah, I was looking at this design here. It looks like this may be clearing up. I know we just had a realignment. I live on Morton Lane, and it comes out right now at an angle very similar to what Shores Road does to veterans. And when the developer put a new subdivision in across from there, the town of Smyrna required them to realign Morton Lane so that it comes out at a 90-degree perpendicular so that you have good visibility right and left. Turning at an angle, and I don't know how you know that everybody's going to be turning right unless they got cars that are geared for right-hand turns only. I mean, I would think when you come out to that intersection, you have opportunity to turn right or left. And keeping another road there in close proximity to the realigned road is really going to be, I think you're asking for a lot of wrecks. And wrecks, crashes, traffic accidents.
Well, they don't have the wrecks, traffic, and crash accidents now.
I don't know.
Now they're going to have a red light that would stop traffic, and they got plenty of way to go right or left.
I would think that if you eliminated the traffic going by there, I mean, everything on Shores Road goes right by their house right now. Right? Yeah. They got hundreds of cars a day, right? Goes through there.
And they don't care.
And so I would think I would want the quiet. So I think we ought to go ahead and.
Other questions?
I do know that there were public hearings at the city about this. I wasn't there, but yes, sir. Yes, sir. So.
And the county residents was left out. And that's all I'm asking is let's get these county residents to the table so they can express their concerns, and their concerns may be solved. We don't know, but let's get them to the table so they can have an opinion or a voice before we do this cul-de-sac. Is all I'm asking.
All right, Commissioner Gurley.
Yeah, once again, if the county residents wanted to voice their concerns, I've gone and voiced my concern at city council meetings on some of the planning and so on in my district several times. And, I've never seen anyone denied access. I'm sure there were signs and everything placed around this. I mean, I don't quite get it. Over 4 or 5 residents that probably had the opportunity to go and voice their concerns at the meeting on this if there were public hearings done on it. So, I would encourage your constituents to go attend the city council meeting where the city is butting up against the county, because that's what I've had to do in my district.
Do you know how many times
Commissioner
county
Gooch.
residents have gone to the city council meeting and they just blow them away? I can count.
Then
No
go and
concern, they
represent
have no
them there.
representation.
All right.
They go there and blow them.
So, Trey, let's say that the city has talked to those county residents, and the city says, we're going to put a cul-de-sac there. It's the safest thing to do. So what do you expect this body to do?
If the county residents are allowed to meet, voice their concerns, look at it, give their opinion, see if there can be, if the road can still be open with safely.
If the city says no,
can't, then ultimately we'll have to approve it.
If the city says no, they're going to put a cul-de-sac in there because of the connectivity, the safety, and the overall plan. And they've talked to the residents, and even though the residents are upset about it, but the city says we're going to put a cul-de-sac in, because that's basically what's happened.
Yeah. So, and we say, well, we're just not going to sign the maintenance agreement.
That's what you would like to happen.
I would first like to have these residents voice their concern and talk with the...
Trey, the city has talked to the residents.
Okay, then yes. Don't accept the agreement then. That's what I want to do,
Okay,
yes.
all right. I just want you to know that the city has talked to those folks. And they may not like the answer, but there has to be a decision.
Commissioner Gammon.
Whichever direction it's going, somewhere, and I'm not saying we're forgetting, but the people that live in the city are county residents also. And you have a large number of them that are represented by commissioners. And to me, I live on a cul-de-sac dead end like that, and I don't have through traffic anymore. So the advantage, I'm not there, but I live in that kind of environment. But it's nicer. I don't have 1,000 cars going down my road, every day. You know how your burglars go down and you're in those cul-de-sac areas or courts or dead ends or whatever they are. So you got to consider all the county residents. Yeah, they're city residents, but they all pay the same taxes, period. So I'm going to call for the question.
Question has been requested. We're going to vote on the question being called to end debate. Okay? All in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. We're back to the original motion. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Yes. Your motion, we had a motion, we had a second. We're back, we've ended, there's no more debate. It was in favor of calling the question. The question's been called, which is not debatable. We're back to Madam Clerk, call the roll on the motion. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Gammon?
Hold on, Madam Clerk.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Mackin is saying we need to do a roll call on the question since we have virtual members.
It's pointed out we need a roll call vote since we have a virtual member or two on calling the question. Madam Clerk, we are voting on calling of the question. Call the roll, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner McAdoo.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
No.
Commissioner Rather?
No.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
No.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
No.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
$15 yes, 5 no.
Motion carries on calling the question. We're back to the original motion that's been seconded. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon.
No.
Commissioner Piercy.
No.
Commissioner Rather.
No.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Cook.
No.
Commissioner Jernigan. Commissioner Cush.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yes.
Commissioner Blair.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
No.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon.
Yes.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
McAdoo. Commissioner Key.
No.
Commissioner Gooch.
No.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
$12 yes, 8 no.
Motion carries. Yes, sir. Commissioner P.
Oh, we had debate cut off, but something I wanted to say, and Trey, I know exactly where you're coming from. I've gone to the city myself, but that's not what this vote was about. This vote was about a maintenance agreement for the strip of road that we own that the city will have to maintain from now on. That's what the vote was about. I agree with you 100%. The citizens, whether you're in the city or in the county, should have access to the county or to the city's planning and be able to voice their concerns there. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and if I was you, I'd be calling them and talking to them about it. But thank you.
I've got a comment.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Pearson, you're recognized.
That in Trey Gooch's district, what we just voted on, the street, the maintenance agreement,
That was in Commissioner Gooch's district.
wasn't in Mr. Gurley's district.
Yes, sir.
I haven't been up here as long as some of you have, but I really think when a commissioner of his district stands against something or for something, he really needs the backing of the other commissioners. Because if you turn the shoe around and put it on your foot, you'd want people to back you also. Now, the people that voted yes would have been just as upset as Mr. Gooch was if he couldn't have got to have met with his people on his terms or had another meeting. And I don't feel like that was right. Now, of course, it's just my opinion. Y'all can dog me out when I shut up. But anyway, I think we should have all stood behind Mr. Gooch. If it wasn't a time-sensitive measure, put it off 30 days and then went from there. But, of course, now it's too late. When we call for the question, there is no more discussion. And that's one thing I don't like is a question called, because there's a lot of stuff that could be said beyond that point that could make a difference. Thank you.
Commissioner Gooch.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Commissioner. But y'all know me. I don't hold no grudges. Love you the way I did 10 minutes ago. So I appreciate you as commissioners. I know you voted your conscience, and I appreciate every one of you. So don't think that I'm upset with any of you, okay?
Other comments on this committee? Item number 6, Steering Legislative Governmental Committee, no report. Members, at this point in time, we are going to move into executive session. Our attorneys are here to discuss some legal matters before this board. I would ask all members either by Zoom. You will be part of this. Anybody else that is Zooming in, please be discontinued. IT, knock them off. We'll stand in recess for nature break. 5 minutes. All right, we're back out of executive session. We're back in order. Commissioner Phillips, call on you.
I want to make a motion with regard to the negotiations and outline of terms that have occurred in the Gertz litigation about which our attorneys have provided information to us in the executive session. While the basic terms of this agreement have been established for consideration, additional material terms must be negotiated before this body can finally approve a settlement in this matter. I move that this commission authorize our attorneys to settle the Gertz litigation consistent with the terms described in the executive session, subject to negotiation of additional material terms with plaintiffs, including but not limited to the claims process and other claims administration issues. I further move that this authorization be explicitly subject to a final review and approval of all terms by this commission, and that the approval of the settlement by the county will not be final until this body reviews the final and complete terms and approves the same by a separate motion. That's my motion.
Have a motion. Is there a second? Have a second. Commissioner Cook. Questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon? Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon? Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
17 yes. Motion passes.
Motion carries. Under item R, any other business, report on debt obligations, information only. Anything, Ms. Nolan?
It's there for your review. We kind of touched on it in budget. We sold bonds. We were selling it at about $101 million. We got a huge premium. When we sold it, the top rate was 1.499 something. After they resized it because of the premium, our rate is at 1.5174, which is one of the best rates that we ever had that I could see on 20-year debt. We received, so our bond is $90,370,000. We received $11,503,000 in premium on this deal. So.
That's for information only. Any questions to Ms. Nolan? Seeing none, statements and announcements. Commissioner P, it's country ham time.
That's right. It is country ham time. This Saturday, October the 17th, between 6 and 10, the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department will be having a country ham breakfast, and want to invite you all out. And that's one way these guys make money to buy equipment and take care of our community. We've been able to get a new roof up on the building, and I think they've got a new paint job inside, so you can come see how it looks.
Absolutely. Anybody that has a medical condition of salt deficiency need to come to Kittrell, right?
That's right, and people that have a problem with salt and country ham, we also serve pancakes.
That's right. Sugar.
This Saturday, the 17th.
This coming Saturday.
And that's from 6 to 10.
Commissioner Johnson, you're standing. I'll call on you.
Yes. On a pleasant note, tomorrow
will be my wife and I, my lovely wife, 55 years anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
And I wish her the best of luck with me the rest of the time.
Well, let me, before I call on Commissioner Cook, let me say today is my 37th anniversary with my lovely wife, and I'm celebrating it with you all. So I'll kiss her when I get home, and I'm sure I'll wake her up and she'll tell me just go on to bed. So, Commissioner Cook.
Staying out so late, she may have the door locked.
Yeah, have to put the cat out.
Old Timers Day in Laverne. The parade starts at 10, and the country ham breakfast starts at 6, I think.
At the rescue squad.
The rescue squad gonna have breakfast. So
you can go from one end of the county and have 2 ham breakfasts, right?
yeah. So y'all come.
Y'all come. Commissioner Johnson.
Also, Commissioner P. reminded me, tomorrow is the Rogers Group barbecue.
Barbecue in the pit.
At the pit.
In
11 o'clock.
In Blackman. Commissioner Key.
Mayor, you and I have something in common. It's not wives, but it's anniversaries. So today is my 32nd anniversary.
Cool.
So if we get locked out, we'll have to go somewhere.
Might need to go some Waffle House, get something to eat. Other statements and announcements.
Chairman, I move that we adjourn after I announce that the presentation that Commissioner Reed had reminded me of Indiana Jones. I love his hat, and we might all have to go out and buy some.
Motion to adjourn. So moved.